What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5SS Chapter 101 Giant Ape. A few days later, inside the huge research institute of Punk Hassad. Whoa, Yang Hao, you are such a genius. How did you come up with this, so original? Caesar Coolant's excited voice sounded. Baby -5 looked at Yang Hao with admiration. Monet next to him also looked shocked. Not long ago, Yang Hao suddenly produced a research report on the enlargement of the human body. This report amazed Caesar Current. Of course, that's fine if that's all. But just 2 days ago, Yang Hao had already come up with a blue wave ball improvement plan. Caesar Current has already tested this improved plan. This plan was successful. The blue wave ball made according to this plan will be much stronger. One ball can make the animal fruit ability user completely lose control and turn into a huge unconscious monster. Although the effect is not suitable for production, in terms of results, this is indeed a success. What is worth mentioning is that this plan also allowed Yang Hao to take away the last 100 million Baileys from Caesar Current again. In this regard, Caesar Current was originally quite critical. Because the Rambo ball was successfully improved, he naturally planned to use the remaining 100 million Baileys for human body enlargement experiments and artificial devil fruits. It's just that Yang Hao said that he already has inspiration, which can definitely help him achieve greater research results. Caesar Current was still a little skeptical at first, but after getting the report, he suddenly became pleasantly surprised. Because what is said in this report seems to be really possible. This report is actually about the improvement of giant medicine. The sequelae of the giant drug are that the experimental subjects are irritable and uncontrollable. Therefore, this report provides a seemingly feasible idea, which is to use the deformation power of the blue wave ball to improve the giant medicine. If it is successful, the experimental subject will not increase in size after taking the giant medicine, but will accumulate the power of the medicine in the body, wait for the relevant medicines to be taken, and directly activate the power of the giant medicine to transform into a giant. But after the medicine is exhausted, it will still return to its original shape. Although it is a bit troublesome, in this way, we can avoid body shape changes, physical harm caused by it, and a series of sequelae. Of course, it's not just ideas, it even provides several research methods. The only problem is that these research methods require a lot of funds. Monet, let's go find Joker quickly. After reacting, Caesar Current quickly flew to the room with the phone bug. Monet glanced at Yang Hao and followed him. Looking at the backs of the two people leaving, Yang Hao's lips curled up slightly, revealing a smile. Caesar Current walked so fast, of course he was in a hurry to ask Doflamingo for money. Just like in the simulation, Doflamingo was not satisfied with the results of the improvement of the blue ball, so he did not allocate more funds. Helpless, Yang Hao could only cheat Caesar Current with the remaining 100 million Baileys. But now, Yang Hao has spent it all, so he also hopes that Caesar Current can get more research funds. Speaking of which, 200 million Belly is actually quite durable. But after actual research, Yang Hao found that 200 million was really not enough. Improving the blue wave ball and manufacturing it does not consume much. The big head is still an experiment in human enlargement. To be more precise, it's the cost of giant medicine. Yang Hao didn't know until later that every giant pill was worth a lot of money. In fact, you can figure it out if you think about it a little. This giant medicine can give ordinary humans the power of giants. The materials spent are definitely expensive. In particular, he asked Caesar Current to enhance the power of the giant medicine. So later on, after Yang Hao used the giant medicine to gain the power of a giant, the money in his hand simply disappeared like running water. 200 million. Where is enough? It is precisely because of this that later on, Yang Hao did not dare to spend all the money, but kept a part of it to actually use it on human body enlargement experiments. Otherwise, he really has no good reason to ask Doflamingo for money. Of course, this kind of research does not necessarily mean that there are results. That is to say, Yang Hao took more giant medicine later, and with the burst of inspiration, he came up with ideas and conducted some research. Therefore, the human body enlargement experiment report he handed over to Caesar Current also had real materials. Before Baby -5 could ask any more questions, Yang Hao had already thrown the blue ball directly into his mouth. Come here and test your strength. Yes, this is Yang Hao's unexpected gain. There is no doubt about it. The corners of Yang Hao's mouth rose. This time, he spent 200 million, but what he actually gained was not only the version of the blue wave ball, but also the giant power that had been accumulated in his body. Yang Hao, do we want to follow? It wasn't until they came to a deserted mountain that he and Baby -5 descended. At this moment, Baby 5's questioning voice came to Yang Hao's ears. Let's go somewhere first, but if it's too little, it doesn't seem to work. Thinking of this, Yang Hao hugged Baby -5 directly. Huh? What are we doing here? Looking at the desolate environment around him, BABY5 was a little confused. An amazing scene appeared. As for whether Caesar Current can get that much, let's wait and see. His hair grew wildly, his body grew wildly, and the tail behind him instantly grew in size, like a huge telegraph pole. 120 million is simply not enough to burn. Now he still has something important to do. In addition, he also had an unexpected gain. An extremely strong and ferocious aura swept across. With this report on the enlargement of the human body, I believe that even if Doflamingo doesn't pay, Auntie will give you some, right? However, Yang Hao, who had entered the monster's enhanced form, had clear vision and did not lose consciousness as before. Successfully control monster strengthening. Thinking of this, the corners of Yang Hao's mouth curved a little more happily. Under Baby Five's shocked gaze, Yang Hao suddenly transformed into a 15-meter tall King Kong giant ape. While responding to Baby Five's question, he took out a blue ball from the castle earring in his left ear. At least 1,800,000,000 is needed. In that case, Yang Hao can truly possess the complete power of a giant. If you want money, Caesar Current alone is enough, and there is no need for him to join in the fun. It's the monster's enhanced form. Yang Hao retracted his thoughts and shook his head. It is a blue wave ball with stronger medicinal power and can strengthen monsters with just one ball. Yang Hao, who was originally 3 meters tall, swelled again. He took Baby -5 and flew directly out of the research institute, even more than 10 kilometers away. As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Hao directly activated his ape ability. At the same time, strong energy suddenly burst out from his feet, and he performed the air dance technique and flew up. Chapter 102 The Giant Ape Cuts the Mountain. Yang Hao. Looking at the 5-story tall King Kong giant ape, Baby -5 opened his mouth wide. This is the first time she has seen the enhanced form of a monster in reality. Although before this, she also knew about the strengthening of monsters, and had even seen those with artificial devil fruit abilities turning into huge monsters and losing control. But I have never seen such a shocking beast, no wonder. After all, those with artificial devil fruit abilities have limited size and power even if they lose control of their abilities and turn into giant beasts because of flaws in their artificial devil fruits. In general, it is the castrated version, and none of the giant beasts it conjures exceeds 10 meters. But Yang Hao is different, he is a serious ape fruit user. So at this moment, the 15-meter tall King Kong giant ape formed a sharp contrast with the enhanced monsters Baby -5 had seen before. Immediately afterwards, Baby -5 soon discovered something was wrong. The monster's enhanced form that Yang Hao used did not lose control, but stood quietly in place. Those eyes that should have been red and violent are deep and clear, revealing human-like wisdom. What's going on? Baby -5 was stunned. At this time, Yang Hao was looking at his giant ape body, and the smile on his face could hardly be concealed. In fact, let alone Baby-5. Even he himself saw himself entering the enhanced form of a monster for the first time in reality. After all, Yang Hao really didn't dare to use the previous monster enhancements. He had also imagined before that when he became stronger in the future, he should be able to control the enhanced form of monsters. And now, I finally did it. Yang Hao's eyes lit up. At this time, he is mighty, domineering, powerful and fierce. This is simply so cool. Yang Hao was very excited. Of course, what excites him the most is the surging power in his body at this time. Monster strengthening can be seen as a combination of many strengthening forms. A form encompasses the effects of a large number of forms. For example, arm strengthening, foot strengthening, mind strengthening, fur strengthening, tail strengthening, etc. Even if Yang Hao masters the ability to change at will, he will not be able to do this. But monster strengthening has been achieved. The best thing is that the effect obtained by combining various forms is not as simple as 1 + 1. But an unimaginable improvement. Just like this moment, Yang Hao felt that the power in his body was like an explosion. It was definitely not just as simple as increasing by 1 or 2 times. Of course, because he has just started to master it, although Yang Hao's current monster enhancement can keep him awake, there is a time limit. Judging from the simulation experience, he can only maintain the monster strengthening for 3 minutes now. After that, it will return to its original state and enter a weak state, and there will be a 6-hour CD time just like before. Of course, Yang Hao can also ignore the CD and continue to swallow blue wave balls to strengthen the monster. But in that case, he will lose consciousness again due to the confusion of power in his body. Even so, it was enough to make Yang Hao excited. After all, even if it only lasts for 3 minutes, this trick has suddenly become his biggest trump card. And it can still be used, instead of being a trump card that can only be used to perish together like before. In addition, this 3-minute time limit should be able to be increased if Caesar Current studies it. After all, in the original work, Caesar Current improved the blue ball for Chopper, allowing Chopper to take longer to strengthen the monster. Of course, the subsequent period of weakness will be longer. Thinking of this, Yang Hao was not in a hurry to find Caesar Current. After all, the money has been spent now. If you want to continue to improve the blue wave ball, you still have to see if you can get the money. But before that, it didn't stop Yang Hao from testing the power of the monster's enhanced form. Ever since, this is the reason why Yang Hao brought Baby -5 here specifically. At this time, Yang Hao was too lazy to explain so much to Baby-5. After all, the medicine is only effective for 3 minutes. If you want to test its power, you have to race against time. It doesn't matter if you wait until the effects of the medicine wear off and explain slowly. Thinking like this, Yang Hao's figure suddenly rose into the sky. Moonwalk. There was a bang. A strong wind blew up, blowing Baby Five's maid's dress. Under Baby Five's gaze, Yang Hao's huge 15-meter-tall body suddenly flew into the air. The strong winds stirred up were so exaggerated that they were like a helicopter starting up, with a huge momentum. After entering the monster enhancement, even if you simply use Moonwalk, it will feel earth-shattering. Of course, this situation is not too intuitive. Yang Hao's eyes flashed and he immediately looked towards the hill not far away. The air fluctuated, and a huge green light suddenly formed, with an astonishing sound of breaking through the air, and flew towards the hill not far away. What happened? Why is it so loud? Yang Hao was very excited. Boom! An earth-shaking loud noise followed. A flash of blue light darkened the sky. Invincible Hot Wheels. A small mountain was split open. He didn't stop, and immediately used Lan Ko again and again. But the power displayed is even worse than Kaku's Lan Zhao Zhou Duan. Such power made Yang Hao perk up and take a breath. The hills in the distance suddenly no longer exist. This time, I used the 6-position extended strengthening technique. Even the research institute seemed to be shaken by it. On the other hand, Baby -5 at the scene had his mouth completely open and his whole body was stunned. When Baby -5 saw this, her beautiful eyes stared wildly and her little mouth opened wide. But even the slashing attack he performed, in Baby 5's view, was far inferior to the Lan Ko performed by Yang Hao at this time. Such a situation reminded him of CP9 Kaku's great kick technique. There was another huge roar. Such power made her feel like she was seeing a great swordsman performing a slashing attack. In an instant, a huge river of green light seemed to appear in midair, surging out, like a super-fast train, slamming into the hill. Lan Zhao Zhou Duan. I saw a huge green Kazuki fang flashing past, and the hill in the distance suddenly shook, and was cut horizontally from it. Inside the giant research institute, Caesar Current, who was talking to Doflamingo, couldn't help but be startled. A mountain was flattened like this. A cut mark visible to the naked eye appeared clearly on the mountainside. Isn't this incredible? However, just now, Yang Hao didn't have much energy, and what he used was just an ordinary Lan Ko. Speaking of which, Diamante from the Don Quixote family is actually a senior swordsman. Is this the power of monster enhancement? Without saying a word, his huge body turned in midair and his right foot suddenly kicked in midair. Monet also looked in the direction of the sound in confusion. Hiss. Immediately afterwards, a shocking scene appeared. Chapter 103 A Strange Sound. Shocking News of Wealth. Boom boom boom. At this moment, the entire Punk Hassad heard the earth-shattering loud noise. Doflamingo, who was on the opposite side of the phone, also heard about it and asked in confusion, "What happened over there?" "Don't know?" Caesar Current looked at Kaido in a daze. Monet frowned, thought for a moment and said, "I'll go take a look." And the other side. Baby -5 was completely frozen in place. A small mountain was leveled by Yang Hao. Isn't this too scary? Baby -5 looked at the giant ape figure, shocked and admiring. At this time, Yang Hao was also extremely excited. In fact, he has naturally experimented with the power of monster enhancement in simulations. But in reality, the kind of pleasure and sense of accomplishment brought by the release of power cannot be brought by simulation. Just like this moment. Feeling the power of monster enhancement in person, Yang Hao was so excited that his face turned red. This kind of power is really intoxicating. Yang Hao stopped and suddenly flew towards another hill. Finger gun. A deep hole appeared directly on the huge rock wall. It's like a cave was dug out in an instant. Golden cudgel. Then Yang Hao's eyes flashed, and the giant tail behind him swept across like a big stick. Several dozen meters of rock wall were blown apart. Boom boom boom. As Yang Hao started to wreak havoc, for a while, a huge roar could be heard. Yang Hao first warmed up with 6 postures, and then performed various 6 postures extended strengthening techniques. The ordinary 6 styles are incredibly powerful, let alone the 6-style extended enhancer. In less than 2 minutes, Yang Hao destroyed 3 hills one after another. Powerful. It's so strong, Baby -5 couldn't think of words to describe Yang Hao's power. In her opinion, even the young master is nothing more than this, right? After destroying 3 hills and exploding them into piles of rocks, the time limit for Yang Hao's monster strengthening was almost up. But at this moment, Yang Hao suddenly had another inspiration. Standing among a large amount of gravel, he suddenly made fists with both hands and hammered his chest. Roar. A thundering roar exploded from his bloody mouth. From Baby 5's perspective, the air around Yang Hao's mouth suddenly fluctuated. It was like a lake where a huge boulder had been thrown, causing violent ripples. The ripples spread out, and it was like a super typhoon was blowing around. The terrifying invisible force swept away. A large number of rocks vibrated, and the larger ones even exploded. A huge dust tornado suddenly formed around the giant ape. Such a devastating situation is like the end of the world. The giant ape in the tornado is like the king of doom, possessing the terrifying power of destruction. Seeing this, Baby -5 couldn't help but be very excited and fascinated. Such a powerful being is her man. Finally, as the dust tornado disappeared, the giant ape-like figure quietly transformed back into the handsome man with Chiluo's upper body. A strong feeling of exhaustion suddenly surged into Yang Hao's heart. His body also seemed to become weak. This feeling is somewhat similar to performing turtle-style qigong, but not that serious. Feeling the weakness of his body, Yang Hao's spirit was extremely exciting. The corners of his mouth raised, revealing a pleasant smile. The results of the test made Yang Hao very satisfied. After being strengthened by the monster, his strength increased at least several times. Those moves seem to be the same as the normal use of partially strengthened forms, but in real comparison, they are still much stronger. In addition, this experiment seems to have unexpected results. At the last moment, Yang Hao suddenly got inspiration and launched another sonic attack. Speaking of which, Yang Hao has actually used sonic attacks less frequently since he mastered the 6 styles. This is all because the power of the sonic attack is already slightly insufficient. Enemies encountered are also difficult to be harmed by sound waves. But this time when he entered the monster's enhanced form, Yang Hao was inspired and tried to launch a sonic attack again. The power shown in the results surprised him, although I have never personally experienced the power of Andy's strange voice. But in his opinion, the power of the monster's enhanced sonic attack is even worse than Big Mom's strange sound. After listening to Yang Hao's explanation, Baby -5 quickly understood. In fact, there is no need to hide it. Just thinking about such a scene makes people feel happy. Yang Hao has mastered part of the giant's power, which obviously helps him control the monster's enhanced form. He also learned the good news from Monet that Doflamingo would once again support 100 million belly. Yang Hao's smile became even wider. Yes, the reason why Yang Hao controlled the monster form should be related to his possession of the power of a giant. Yang Hao didn't understand it before, but as he took control of the monster form, he became enlightened. Yang Hao immediately explained with a smile. At the same time, Yang Hao also asked Baby -5 not to pay attention to other people's requests except his own. Yang Hao looked down at Baby -5 and smiled slightly. But just when Yang Hao was thinking that he could only spend 100 million first. After all, monster strengthening, to a certain extent, seems to be similar to the power of giants. The reason why Yang Hao did not lose consciousness is probably because he has eaten a lot of blue balls and has a solid foundation and strong strength. So strong. But how come you didn't lose consciousness when you entered monster enhancement? It's BABY5. Regarding this, he had no intention of hiding it from Baby -5. Baby -5 sighed, and then said with some confusion. After resting for a while, Yang Hao took Baby -5 back to the research institute. In the future, he may be able to use this move as Conqueror's Haki. How? Was that monster's enhanced form just now? It was so strong. Such a request can be regarded as Yang Hao's bug in Baby 5's character flaw. At this time, her face was flushed with excitement and full of pride. Therefore, for Yang Hao, the current Baby -5 is completely reassuring. It's not much, but it's better than nothing. Monet brought him another message about shocking wealth. However, Yang Hao has tested it before and found that this is still possible. Even if it is used to deal with the truly strong, it can still pose a certain threat. Yeah, it's just monster strengthening. This is all because Yang Hao has asked Baby -5 not to reveal any of his situation. At this moment, a figure jumped into Yang Hao's arms, and an excited voice sounded. Next, in addition, there should be the influence of giant medicine. Soon. With one roar, all the fish within 100 meters fell down. Chapter 104 Inspection Mission, Conquering the Empty Island. What, inspection mission? It turned out that in addition to allocating another 100 million Baileys, Doflamingo also asked Monet to convey a message to Yang Hao. To put it simply, BABY5 is needed to do things. The cadres of the Don Quixote family, with such high salary and benefits, are not completely free to do anything. Everyone has corresponding responsibilities. For example, Sugar is specialized in making toys. Toripel, for example, is responsible for protecting Sugar. And BABY5, although she used to be Doflamingo's maid, more often than not, she still performs tasks as a killer. Of course, if possible, Doflamingo is still willing to let Baby -5 stay with Yang Hao. In this way, a deeper relationship with Yang Hao can be developed, which will lead to Yang Hao becoming more fond of Don Quixote and even loyal to him. But it is a pity that although Don Quixote currently has a large number of cadres, not many can be sent out to perform tasks. So Doflamingo could only ask Yang Hao for help. Monet also conveyed Doflamingo's difficulties and asked Yang Hao not to mind. Of course Yang Hao wouldn't mind this, after all, he also knew the internal situation of the Don Quixote family very well. It was just that he was a little curious, so he casually asked what task Baby -5 was needed to perform. He didn't care at first, but after listening to Monet's explanation, he suddenly got excited and his eyes widened. What is the mission Doflamingo assigned to BABY5? In fact, it is just a very simple inspection task. Of course, it's also possible to kill someone. It turns out that Doflamingo's business has gradually spread all over the Grand Line. But the Grand Line is different from North Blue. There are many talented people here, and the strong are rampant. Even if the foundation of some businesses has been laid, they still need to be taken care of from time to avoid difficulties from peers and intrusion from pirates. So from time to time, Doflamingo needs to go to the islands where the family business is located. Even if he is not killing people, it is necessary to show his face. But the Grand Line is so big, of course Doflamingo cannot visit every place in person. So more often than not, cadres are dispatched. This time, the inspection mission assigned by Doflamingo to BABY5 was to inspect the business of the 3 islands in the first half of the Grand Route. It was nothing at first, but after hearing the name of one of the islands, Yang Hao was stunned. His reaction was so great that his pupils shrank. BABY5 was a little surprised. Yang Hao, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with this guy island? Monet was also very confused when he saw Yang Hao's reaction. The other 2 islands were fine, but when Yang Hao heard about Guy Island, he became obviously excited. What's going on? Call. Yang Hao let out a long breath, but his eyes became brighter. Guy Island, he was so excited that it was hard to express. For Baby-5 and Monet, Guy Island may be just one of the many islands in the Great Shipping Route. But for him, it means astonishing wealth. When I went, I almost forgot about the batch of gold from Kongdao. Yang Hao secretly thought, feeling more and more excited. In fact, since he learned that the simulation system burned money, he had thought of many ways to make money. Among them, there is naturally no shortage of methods that can be done once and for all and make a huge profit. This includes Sky Island. As a time traveler, Yang Hao will certainly not forget that there is a huge amount of gold on the empty island. However, at that time, Yang Hao was at West Blue and was beyond his reach. Later, when they came to the Grand Line, they didn't have time to make any plans. Under the threat of Momoshagi, they joined Don Quixote. After joining Don Quixote, Yang Hao was not short of money. He was so busy that he really forgot. It was when Monet mentioned it this time that he suddenly remembered it. Of course, it was not Yang Hao's intention to forget. It's really not easy to plot the gold on the empty island. First of all, how to get to the empty island is a big problem. If you can't fly, you can only ride on the rising sea currents. But it's hard to say whether we can encounter rising ocean currents, which occur once every 5 years. You may not be able to successfully log in if you encounter it. Of course, the biggest problem is the boss on the empty island. The man who claims to be God, Enel. All the gold in Kongdao is in his hands. In other words, to get that gold, you have to defeat Enel. But the opponent is Logia, a user with the Thunder Fruit ability. An existence that can be elementalized. In this way, if Yang Hao can successfully reach the Sky Island, he must also master the armed hockey that can hit the entity of the Logia Fruit ability user, and even be powerful enough to defeat the opponent. It is obviously not easy to meet these conditions. Especially for Yang Hao, who was at West Blue, it was very far away. However, she still had to report Yang Hao's decision to Doflamingo. In a short period of time, Yang Hao did spend a lot of money. In other words, neither Luffy nor anyone else has gone up yet. Don't worry, it won't affect the research. Besides, I just happened to be out for a while. Maybe more research inspiration will suddenly appear and I can completely improve the blue wave ball to have the effect that the young master wants. If Yang Hao joins, he will just transfer Buffalo to perform other tasks. The gold is still there on the empty island. She didn't expect that Yang Hao would want to go on an inspection mission together. The results can be imagined. That's it, the next day. But when he heard this, Monet was surprised. Hearing this, Monet could only nod helplessly. Just kidding, why is research so important? With this idea in mind, Yang Hao came to his senses and said with a smile, I will go with you on this inspection mission. According to the current time, this period of rising currents should not have appeared yet. It's just right to go and conquer Sky Island now. Of course Monet doesn't want Yang Hao to leave, and this is probably what Doflamingo means. Even if you haven't researched anything yet, you can still conquer Sky Island first. But now that I think about it, it doesn't matter. Let's not talk about his current research, it's almost done. Yang Hao has said so, what else does she have to say? But he has indeed achieved amazing results in research. After hesitating for a while, she persuaded. This is not necessary, Baby-5 and Buffalo were completely sufficient in the past, and if you leave now, won't it affect the research? Speaking of which, he had just met the conditions for conquering Sky Island not long ago. So as time went by, he actually forgot about it, but in comparison, his research will be more helpful to the family. Thinking of this, Yang Hao couldn't help laughing. I can't bear to be separated from BABY5, and with me here, there will definitely be no problems with this mission. Then Yang Hao's duty is undoubtedly research, even though he is very powerful. As a result, Doflamingo did not stop Yang Hao's decision to go on the mission together. If Monet hadn't been there, she would have jumped into Yang Hao's arms. When Baby-5 heard this, he was immediately moved, his pretty face flushed, and his eyes turned into love as he looked at Yang Hao. After hearing Monet's words, Yang Hao kaido without hesitation. If we say that Baby Five's duties are maid and killer. With that huge amount of gold, and using the simulation system arbitrarily, what kind of research can't be done? Yang Hao took Baby Five and flew straight to Gaia Island. Chapter 105. Arriving at Demon Valley Town. The next day, Caesar Current, seeing Monet, asked, Yang Hao and Baby Five are gone. Well, I left early in the morning. Monet nodded, but confusion flashed across his pretty face. She always felt like she couldn't understand Yang Hao. Power cannot understand. The opponent defeated Raoji, but it always felt like he still had some hidden strength. I can't understand it even after researching it. Following Caesar Current, Monet was not completely ignorant of research. It is too common for research to take years to produce results. How can anyone produce research results in just a few days, and there are more than one? Emotionally, I don't understand either. She didn't think Yang Hao had much respect for Doflamingo. And according to her observations, Yang Hao didn't seem to care that much about Baby -5. How could Yang Hao like this abandon his research and accompany her on inspections? Strange, Yang Hao is really strange. Caesar Current didn't pay too much attention. Anyway, Doflamingo's 100 million funds have arrived. But when he came to the property room and saw the funds shrunk 10 times, he was stunned. Ah, why are there only 10 million left? Caesar Current was horrified. Was it robbed? As a result, next to Bailey, he saw a letter. Dear Brother Caesar, the target island is a long way away, and it is inevitable that you will need to spend money on the way, so I will borrow some money from you to spend it. I love your brother Yang Hao. By the way, if you can, help me research the improved blue wave ball. I need its effect to be more lasting. Even if the side effects are prolonged, it doesn't matter. After reading the content of the letter, Caesar Current's face darkened. He also knew about Yang Hao and Baby Five going on patrol missions. But what he never expected was that before Yang Hao left, he actually took away 90 million from him. Fortunately, Yang Hao left one sentence at the end. My brother is not an ungrateful person. When he comes back, he will return your money double. Seeing this, Caesar Current's face looked much better. The most important thing is that even if he wants to refuse, it is impossible. No wonder that boy left early in the morning. Really. Other side. Baby Five, who was in Yang Hao's arms, turned to look in the direction of Punk Hassad, with some hesitation on his pretty face. How, is it really okay for us to take away so much money? As a fellow traveler, Baby Five also saw when Yang Hao took away Caesar Current's funds. She couldn't help but be speechless at Yang Hao's bold behavior. This time, the young master only allocated 100 million belly, but Yang Hao directly took 90 million. This seems a bit excessive, right? Hearing this, Yang Hao chuckled. Although he was very confident when he went to attack the empty island this time, he would still be right to be cautious. But Yang Hao had spent all his previous 200 million, and he would definitely have to borrow it from Caesar Current. And this was also the reason why he didn't go to the Sky Island immediately after learning about the patrol mission that day. Just to wait for the funds to be in place before borrowing again. Otherwise, Yang Hao could not wait to leave long ago. As for whether Caesar Current will be angry, it should be possible, but there is a high chance that he will not argue with Yang Hao. First, the previous two research results, whether it was the improvement of the blue ball or the experimental report on the enlargement of the human body, proved Yang Hao's scientific ability. Caesar Current's attitude towards him was very good, so he probably wouldn't fall out with him because of this. Of course, the most important thing was Yang Hao's final words. The funds are returned twice as much, which is a huge profit. How could Caesar Current refuse such an offer? Therefore, Baby Five's worries are simply unnecessary. Again, it's the same sentence. Yang Hao has now become so powerful that even Doflamingo is no longer afraid of him. How could he be afraid of Caesar Current's rebellion? He took 90 million baileys without authorization. Even if Caesar Current had any objections to this, he had to accept it. Of course, Yang Hao did not deceive Caesar Current. He really intended to give it back twice as much. As long as he successfully conquers the empty island, 90 million multiplied by double will be just a drop in the bucket for him. It's a bit exaggerated to say this, but if it really succeeds, 180 million will really be nothing to him. Thinking of the gold on Sky Island, Yang Hao became more and more excited. But as he said to Caesar Current, even if he could fly to Gaia Island, it would still be a long way. Even if Yang Hao does not hesitate to use Wukong technique for a long time, it will probably take more than half a month. During this period of time, Yang Hao was naturally not idle. While flying BABY-5, he suddenly activated the simulation system. But this time, Yang Hao's goal is not to become stronger, but to test whether the journey to Gaia Island goes smoothly and whether he can successfully reach there. Regarding this, Yang Hao was not too worried. After all, they are not wandering in the new world now, but are returning to the first half of the great route known as Paradise. With Yang Hao's current strength, he is definitely a top-notch existence in the first half of the Grand Route. Unless he meets Shichibukai, even the pirate supernova cannot be his opponent. In fact, even among Shichibukai, Yang Hao feels that he can be among the best. If he has extra money later, maybe he can practice with Doflamingo in the simulation. But now, the most important thing is to go to Gaia Island first. Gaia Island. A coast with half a house. Blah blah blah. The sea surface suddenly fluctuated. Immediately afterwards, a chestnut as big as a fist emerged from the bottom of the sea. Then there is a middle-aged man's head and a strong red upper body. This is clearly a middle-aged man with a diamond-shaped face and a chestnut head. After the man emerged from the sea, he gasped violently. On the coast, two men who looked like apes looked at the middle-aged man with some worry. Boss, it's okay, let's take a rest first. Yes, if you dive for 3 consecutive hours, your body will not be able to bear it. After hearing the two men's persuasion, the middle-aged man shook his head. He took a deep breath and was about to continue diving into the bottom of the sea, but at this moment, he suddenly saw something unusual out of the corner of his eye. What is that? The middle-aged man turned his head suddenly and saw a black shadow flying towards the horizon at an extremely fast speed. The eyes of the two ape men were also attracted, but they only had time to take a glance. The black shadow passed over their heads like a meteor and suddenly disappeared on the other side of the island. I don't know if I saw it wrong, but that black shadow seems to look a bit like the two of them. What is that? Have no idea. The three of them were a little confused. After a while, on the streets of Magic Valley Town, a furry figure fell. The next second, the hair faded and the figure shrank, revealing a handsome man with his upper body covered with bare clothes. It was Yang Hao. Looking at the surrounding Mogu town, a smile subconsciously appeared on Yang Hao's face. Finally arrived. Chapter 106. The first simulation of an empty island. This time, the speed of coming to Gaia Island was much faster than Yang Hao thought. It's only been a little over half a month and we've arrived. Of course, this is also because Yang Hao almost constantly uses Wukong to rush on his way. The consequence of this was naturally that Yang Hao's face turned a little pale after he came here. A feeling of exhaustion spread throughout his body. However, looking at the surrounding environment of Mogu town, Yang Hao still subconsciously showed a smile on his face. Especially after looking at the sky, his smile could hardly be concealed. Yang Hao, are you here? I want to come out. At this moment, Baby Five's voice came from Yang Hao's left ear. Hearing this, Yang Hao reacted and released Baby Five with a thought. We're finally here, what should we do next? Baby Five took a look at the lively scene around him and asked. Her condition is much better than that of Yang Hao. After all, during these days on the road, she almost always stayed in the castle earrings. In addition to being used as a warehouse to store items by Yang Hao, the current castle earrings have also been organized into many bedrooms. Staying inside is no worse than usual. After hearing what Baby Five said, Yang Hao said without thinking, I'm in charge of Gaia Island, you go to the other two islands. This was an arrangement he had already thought of. Why don't we go together? Baby Five was a little confused when he heard this. The other two islands are not that far apart. If you take a boat, you can get there in a few days, but with Yang Hao's flying speed, he can probably make a round trip in a day. Why should we separate? Yang Hao explained. I'm a little tired and need to take a rest. Hearing this, Baby Five was startled, and then realized that Yang Hao's face was a little pale. Okay, you look a little ugly, you really need to take a good rest. She no longer had any doubts and quickly agreed. Looking at the obedient Baby-5, Yang Hao chuckled secretly. He was indeed a little tired, but he was not unable to continue flying. The reason for this arrangement was naturally because he wanted to stay on Gaia Island and simulate it, and he had no time to take Baby Five to the other two islands. After all, after the simulation, he still had to go to the Sky Island in person in reality. Next, Baby Five did not rush to conduct inspections, but took Yang Hao to find a place to stay and rest first. She decided it wouldn't be too late to wait until the next day to go to work. Yang Hao naturally would not refuse. At night, Baby-5, who was in the same room, rarely asked for help, as if he was worried about Yang Hao's physical condition. Instead, she gently massaged Yang Hao to relieve his fatigue. In fact, Yang Hao is not that serious and can handle Baby Five more than enough. However, since the other party did not ask for it, he would naturally not take the initiative to start another war. While enjoying the service of the beautiful maid, Yang Hao started the simulation again. Before coming to Gaia Island, he had already conducted some simulations. But that simulation was mainly about rushing. See if there are any accidents on the road. The results can be imagined. Except for one of the simulations, which was attacked by a sea beast, nothing happened in the rest of the simulations. After several simulations, it was not that he didn't encounter other people at all, even pirates, but Yang Hao ignored them and flew straight past. At the moment, there was no surprise in the actual situation. He arrived at Gaia Island smoothly. So next, naturally we have to simulate the situation of going to the empty island. At night, while Baby Five was sleeping soundly, you left the room. Close black lens bracket. Mogu town is still very lively at night. You didn't attract anyone's attention and quietly came to the forest outside the town. Close black lens bracket. When you come here, you can't help but think of the guide bird, which is a pointing tool to the Sky Island, but of course you don't need it. Close black lens bracket. But then, Yang Hao did not continue the simulation. Riding the express shrimp, you start wandering aimlessly on the empty island. The main purpose is to feel the changes in your body. Close black lens bracket. Mainly because the body is still tired and weak. 200 meters, 400 meters, 1000 meters. You paid the money readily, and even rented an express shrimp from the other party for transportation. Close black lens bracket. Although you already know a lot about Kongdao, seeing it for the first time still makes you feel doubly novel about it all. Close black lens bracket. With this idea in mind, Yang Hao stopped simulating and had a good sleep. In comparison, using Wukong technique to fly to the Sky Island will make your body tired and weak again. Close black lens bracket. A sea of clouds like an ocean appears above your head. Open black lens bracket 3000 meters, 5000 meters, 7000 meters, close black lens bracket. Silently, you turned into a fierce ape. The air flow under your feet stirred up. You instantly performed the air dance technique and flew towards the sky. Close black lens bracket. Here, you see a short, wrinkled old woman. This is the Amazon, the watcher stationed at the gate of heaven. Close black lens bracket. Yang Hao woke up the next day feeling refreshed. After having a meal with Baby 5 and seeing her off, he was ready to officially simulate the attack on the empty island. This is a phenomenon caused by insufficient oxygen, and you don't care. Close black lens bracket. The simulation ends, benign changes are obtained, 1. Adapt to the island environment, malignant changes are obtained, none. Close black lens bracket. She asks you for 1 billion extras, which is 100,000 Baileys. Close black lens bracket. Similar to Luffy and others in the original work, when you come to the Sky Island, you also feel that your athletic ability is suppressed, but it is not too strong. Close black lens bracket. As the distance increases, you can clearly feel that there is a slight blockage in breathing. Close black lens bracket. But at this moment, an accident happened. Now it seems that if you want a better simulation, it is best to completely restore it in reality. And he found that if he wanted to go to the Sky Island to cause trouble, it would be best to adapt to the thin air of the Sky Island first. At this distance, you obviously find that the effect of the Wukong technique has weakened a bit, and your body seems to be wearing a weight. Close black lens bracket. In this way, even if using Wukong technique will cause fatigue and weakness, it will not fall into a double weakness. No, it only took a few days for him to successfully adapt to the island environment. In the darkness, Yang Hao's eyes flashed. You know in your heart that this is the white sea formed by sea clouds. Without any hesitation, you dive into it. The cold touch spreads throughout your body. You open your eyes to see and hear domineeringly, and soon you feel a lot of life breath. This is the White Sea. Strange life in the sea, empty fish. Close black lens bracket. This also resulted in a weak state after flying to the island in the simulation. Soon, the fish attacks you, but it cannot break through your defense. Close black lens bracket. Next time I go, I guess I will be able to adapt seamlessly. In this simulation, he was not in a hurry to make trouble. At this time, although you are still a little tired, it does not affect the performance of Wukong technique. Under the influence of Wukong technique, you quickly flew to an altitude of 100 meters and continued to rise. Close black lens bracket. You swam for a while and soon crossed the White Sea and arrived at the gate of heaven. Close black lens bracket. In reality, he had just flown across the sea and was still in a state of exhaustion and weakness. In this way, you silently feel the changes in your body, just like a tourist, starting to visit the empty island. So this time, Yang Hao did not cause trouble in the simulation, but played the role of a quiet handsome man. Chapter 107 Bellamy is unhappy. After sending Baby 5 away, Yang Hao couldn't wait to go back, start the simulation, and officially conquer the empty island. But at this moment, an accident happened. A group of people suddenly surrounded Yang Hao. Yang Hao's handsome face showed a look of surprise. The group of people surrounding them were obviously a group of pirates. The leader also confirmed this. This is a young man with yellow hair wearing sunglasses and smiling wildly. It's actually Bellamy. Yang Hao was a little surprised, he didn't expect to meet Bellamy. But after thinking about it, he reacted again. When he first crossed over, it was a year before Luffy went to sea. But counting the time now, it seems that it is almost done. Luffy is probably out to sea now. In the original work, Bellamy ran rampant in Mogu town and met Luffy who came to the Grand Line. But what does it mean to find this guy now? Yang Hao narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at Bellamy and his group calmly. He is the vicious ape. It doesn't look very good either. Why would Doflamingo accept him as a cadre? You are so short, can I knock him down with just one punch? Bellamy, the leader, stared at Yang Hao closely, while the remaining pirates started whispering. After hearing these words, Yang Hao vaguely understood the intention of Bellamy and others. It seems that the arrival of him and Baby 5 was known to Bellamy and others. So they took the initiative to come over. But something was obviously wrong with Bellamy's expression. Perhaps it was because Bellamy was a little unhappy seeing him become a cadre of the Don Quixote family at such a young age. Hey, what's the matter? Yang Hao asked with a half smile. It's nothing, I just heard that you came here, and I came here specially to take a look. My name is Bellamy, and I am also a follower of Doflamingo. I heard that you are a devil fruit user. A rebellious smile suddenly appeared on Bellamy's lips. He has admired Doflamingo since he was a child. Under the influence of Doflamingo, he is also very arrogant. So of course he was unhappy when he saw Yang Hao, who was much younger than him, surpassing him and becoming a cadre of the Don Quixote family. If it was someone like Baby Five who had been trained since childhood, it would be fine, but Yang Hao clearly joined him halfway, just like him. Of course, Bellamy also knows that Yang Hao has a bounty of 100 million Baileys and is the only candidate for this year's Pirate Supernova, who is eligible to join the Don Quixote family. But he just wasn't happy. Especially after seeing me in person, I felt even more unhappy. He is really too young and looks like a weakling. Aren't people like this always the object of his bullying? Thinking of this, Bellamy's smile became even wider. Yeah, what's wrong? Faced with Bellamy's inquiry, Yang Hao remained calm. Bellamy suddenly smiled and said, I am also a devil fruit user. Everyone follows Doflamingo. We need to exchange more feelings. How about taking this opportunity to give me some pointers on my fighting skills? You are a cadre of Don Quixote, and you have a bounty of 100 million berry. You shouldn't be afraid of me with a bounty of only 55 million berry, right? At this time, Bellamy took the initiative to invite a fight. The pirates around him suddenly became very excited. There is no doubt that both Yang Hao and Bellamy are very powerful new pirates. Not to mention Yang Hao, who has a bounty of 100 million and is this year's Pirate Supernova. And Bellamy is not weak either. Although he was not rated as a Pirate Supernova, he did not suffer a single defeat. Moreover, his bounty has not been updated for more than half a year. Bellamy versus Yang Hao is like a fight between a dragon and a tiger. Bellamy originally thought that Yang Hao, who was so young, would be young and frivolous, so he agreed to him in a young and energetic manner. But what I didn't expect was that Yang Hao raised his eyebrows and asked with a half smile, I don't have time to give you advice now, unless. He actually refused. But it doesn't seem to be completely rejected. Unless what? Bellamy asked subconsciously. Unless you give me money. What? Give me money? Bellamy was startled and looked at Yang Hao in astonishment. What's the meaning? It means that I don't have time to play with you unless you give me money. Well, your bounty is 55 million Baileys, right? Then give me 55 million, and take it as if I beat you. Received the reward. Yang Hao explained lightly. But as soon as his words came out, everyone was stunned. Bellamy's expression also froze. But when he came back to his senses, his face suddenly turned red. Although Yang Hao's tone was indifferent, he clearly heard Yang Hao's contempt. He also happened to ask for 55 million, which is completely disrespectful to him. Thinking of this, Bellamy laughed angrily. In this case, if I defeat you, do you have to give me 100 million Baileys? It stands to reason that this is indeed the case, but it is not necessary. Usually when Bellamy is bullying others with a playful smile, he is not too scary. But just when Bellamy was thinking about a bright future. Hiss. What a fast speed. Buzz. Bellamy, who had been so cool just now, rolled his eyes and fell to the ground unconscious. Bang. They didn't know how strong Yang Hao was, but they knew clearly how terrifying Bellamy was. Buzz. The naked eye can't keep up. Sakis and others were stunned for a moment. The surrounding pirates suddenly understood something and distanced themselves one after another. And Bellamy already had a sneer on his face. Yang Hao shook his head, then looked at the pirates. Give me money. Just after hearing a loud noise, Bellamy's feet suddenly turned into springs, and his whole body flew up. Forget it. Bellamy stopped smiling and his face became tense. The terrifying vibrating sound began to spread. With the continuous ejection, his speed is also increasing, and in the blink of an eye, afterimages are left in midair. The pirates all thought so. After more than 10 rounds of ejection, and the speed reached the limit that he could control, he punched Yang Hao hard on the head. Facing this pirate supernova, the new leader of Don Quixote, he planned to knock him down with one punch. A sudden heavy blow shattered his dream. What's really scary is when he gets angry. And what happened next was exactly what happened. That guy is really in trouble. Yang Hao Kaido calmly. Sarkis and others marveled. It is simply a humanoid ferocious beast. Not to mention the target, even the surrounding grounds will be destroyed. Buzz. Just a second before Bellamy's fist struck, Yang Hao raised a white fist, took the first step, and blasted it into the ground. Especially Sakis, the vice captain of the Bellamy pirates, while leading the pirates to retreat, he gloated. This ape is going to be unlucky, Bellamy is angry. Bellamy was suddenly around, constantly ejecting. At this time, he had even thought that after he defeated Yang Hao, Doflamingo would recognize him more and officially recruit him into Don Quixote. Feeling the powerful power he had exploded, Bellamy's mouth showed a hint of pride. Chapter 108 A Mere Thunder God. Ding. 55 million Baileys have been recorded again. Sakis and others took the unconscious Bellamy back to the pirate ship, and at the same time handed over the agreed 55 million to Yang Hao. Yang Hao smiled and thought that Bellamy was quite rich. He was even hesitant about whether to commit robbery. But Yang Hao changed his mind and decided to forget it. In fact, if Bellamy hadn't taken the initiative to come over, even if he met him, he wouldn't have taken advantage of him. After all, the other party currently belongs to Don Quixote's pirate group. We still need to give Doflamingo, the financial backer, a little face. Even if the other party takes the initiative to come up to you, it will be the same. It's okay to give him a lesson, but if he attacks again, it won't be justified. Of course, the most important thing is that Yang Hao already looks down on Bellamy's 3 melons and 2 dates. Thinking of the gold on the empty island, Yang Hao's heart became hot again. Without wasting any more time on Bellamy and others, Yang Hao used moonwalk to return to his residence. After confirming that his body was not tired or weak, he officially started the simulation. You cast the Wukong technique and start flying towards the empty island. Close black lens bracket. Half an hour later, you saw the White Sea at an altitude of 7,000 meters. Close black lens bracket. When you reach this position, you begin to carefully sense the changes in your body. If you nod secretly, you have indeed adapted to the island environment. Close black lens bracket. Except for the consumption of Wukong technique, there are no other changes in your body. Sensing this, you feel completely relieved and start crossing the White Sea. Close black lens bracket. Soon, you saw the gate of heaven again, and Amazon, the monitor of the gate of heaven. Close black lens bracket. This time, you did not pay, but forced your way through the gate of heaven. Amazon immediately took your photo and sent it to the White Berets. You committed the crime of illegally entering the country on Sky Island and were wanted by the White Berets. Close black lens bracket. The White Beret troops quickly dispatched, but they did not find you because you had quickly landed on the island of gods, Apato. Close black lens bracket. Your existence was noticed by Enel, and he immediately sent 4 god-tier officers to directly impose a divine test on you. Close black lens bracket. But soon, what surprised Enel was that the 4 god-tier officers were lost in your hands one after another. Close black lens bracket. At first, Enel thought you were just a mouse sneaking to the island of gods, but now, he has changed his mind. You seem to be a tiger. Close black lens bracket. Soon, along with the sound of electric current surging, a figure with the same red upper body appeared in front of you. Close black lens bracket. Dead fish eyes, big earlobes, a strange taiko drum hanging behind your back, and a long golden stick in your hand. You looked at Enel with a half smile in your eyes. Close black lens bracket. Enel raised his eyebrows, looking at you who had turned into an ape, a little surprised, but soon his expression became cold, and he banged the taiko drum behind his back. Close black lens bracket. There is a boom, thunder and lightning surges, and a thunderbird attacks you with an astonishing momentum. Close black lens bracket. Seeing this scene, you did not dodge, but just stood there. Close black lens bracket. Zitsa, the thunderbird will soon hit you, causing your tall body to be bathed in thunder and lightning. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. A trace of anxiety rose, and a smile appeared on Enel's face, but it soon froze. After the thunderbirds dissipated, you stood there, with no signs of injury except for a slight burn on your body. Close black lens bracket. That's it, even tickling me is not enough. You chuckled. The reason why you didn't dodge was naturally because you wanted to see if your body could withstand Enel's thunder. Close black lens bracket. But now it seems that even if you just resist with physical strength, the opponent's thunder and lightning cannot hurt you. Close black lens bracket. Of course, this is not Enel's strongest attack, so you plan to continue testing. Close black lens bracket. Thunderbird cannot cause damage to you, which made Enel's face darken. Without a word, he immediately beat the drum again, releasing a stronger thunder attack. Close black lens bracket. What is attacking you this time is a huge thunder wolf like a thunder wolf, but you still stand motionless. Close black lens bracket. Seeing such a situation, Enel's eyelids twitched, but there was nothing he could do for a while. He could only watch in silence as Lehu hugged you. Close black lens bracket. After a burst of thunder and lightning, a burning smell came out, but you are still safe. Enel's face turned completely gloomy, and he immediately beat the drum to release the more powerful Brontosaurus. Close black lens bracket. This time, amidst the thunder and lightning, a muffled groan from you finally came out, and Enel finally breathed a sigh of relief. Close black lens bracket. You are still the first person who can resist lightning since his debut, but now it seems that you are not completely able to resist. Close black lens bracket. It's just that you were hurt, but the smile on your face did not disappear. Enel's Brontosaurus did hurt you, but it was not too serious. You are very satisfied with being able to do this with your pure body. After all, you can gnaw a rubber fruit. Close black lens bracket. Thinking of this, you disappear directly on the spot, shave. Close black lens bracket. The speed of this burst is almost as fast as Enel's thunder fruit ability. Open black lens bracket. Enel sensed the domineering power after seeing it, but still couldn't react, and was sent flying by your punch. Close black lens bracket. With a bang, Enel directly smashed a big tree. When the surrounding priests saw this, they were shocked. Enel was actually hit. Close black lens bracket. Enel was also very shocked. Faced with Yang Hao's attack, he had no time to dodge, but it did not mean that he had no time to elementalize. At that moment, he had clearly entered elementalization. Why was he still hit? Close black lens bracket. You have no habit of explaining to the enemy, so you immediately attacked Enel. Close black lens bracket. Enel reacted, a little disbelieving in evil, but he was quickly taught how to be a good man by you, who possesses armed color and domineering. Close black lens bracket. After more than a dozen close rounds, the originally aloof god Enel turned into a pig head. Close black lens bracket. Enel has learned his lesson completely and does not dare to fight you in close combat anymore. He quickly distances himself and uses thunder and lightning to attack from a distance. Close black lens bracket. In his opinion, the Thunder Dragon can still hurt you. It just takes a few attacks and it should be able to finish you off. But this time, the Thunder Dragon has no effect. Even if you don't activate the strongest defense, just covering the body with armed domineering energy is enough to defend the Thunder Dragon. Close black lens bracket. Seeing this situation, Enel was completely dumbfounded and became furious. He felt that his authority as a god had been completely challenged. You damn Qinghai man, he will definitely kill you. In anger, Enel stopped holding back and went all out, entering the Thunder God form with 200 million volts. Close black lens bracket. The terrifying thunder and lightning fluctuations distort the air near it. Close black lens bracket. The terrifying voltage that spreads can even make your hair stand up uncontrollably. Close black lens bracket. When you saw this scene, you smiled even more, and then rushed over without hesitation. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Just a thunder god. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 109. The New God of Sky Island. In reality, Yang Hao showed a smile. In less than an hour, he had simulated it 6 times. But it is worth mentioning that when he officially started to simulate conquering the empty island just now, he passed the level directly. The next 4 times were just tests to see if there was any possibility of him overturning. The final result is that it is impossible to overturn. With his current strength, he will never fail against Enel, who is not good at physical skills and does not know how to use weapons and domineering. However, on 2 occasions, Yang Hao was injured to varying degrees, even seriously. But these are all the results of Yang Hao's deliberate actions. He wanted to test the power of the Thunder Fruit, and even gave Enel a chance to open it later. But in general, even if he is seriously injured, he will win in the end. In this case, Yang Hao was naturally completely relieved. Call. He took a long breath, stood up, and his figure flew out of the window in an instant. Buzz. The air current surges. Yang Hao suddenly turned into a meteor and soared into the sky. Using the air dance technique, Yang Hao was like a big rock, and his figure soared upwards. The strong wind blew against his face, but it could not extinguish the fire in his heart. Kongdao, here I come. Facing the vast sky, Yang Hao felt proud. 1,000 meters, 2,000 meters, 3,000 meters. In less than a moment, Yang Hao rushed to an altitude of 3,000 meters. He did not stop the Wukong technique, but continued to perform it. As his body strengthened, he could now fully bear the consumption of Wukong technique. Even if you fly to an altitude of 7,000 meters, you will not feel tired. The magnificence of the sky spread out in front of Yang Hao like a scroll. Along with this, he also became relaxed and happy. Yang Hao was very satisfied with the speed of Wukong technique. This speed is almost the same as a bear flying. But Yang Hao was still not satisfied. After possessing the Wukong technique, he wanted more, such as the teleportation in Dragon Ball. It would be great if you could master teleportation. When the time comes, you can lock your breath and reach the target with just one thought, regardless of the distance. Just like now, a thought can bring you to the Sky Island, so there is no need to fly. However, mastering such an ability seems to be a bit far away for him now. He can indeed lock the target's aura, but the range is not large, and the movement obviously involves higher level power, which is not something that Yang Hao can get involved with at present. But thinking of this, Yang Hao was not discouraged, but instead looked forward to it. All because he has a simulation system, he has unlimited possibilities. The emergence of turtle-style Qigong and Wukong technique has completely proved this point. Just because he can't teleport now doesn't mean he won't in the future. The more Yang Hao thought about it, the more excited he became. Unconsciously, a huge sea of clouds appeared above his head. The White Sea has arrived. Yang Hao's eyes flashed, and his figure disappeared into it without any pause. A cold feeling came, and Yang Hao subconsciously activated his domineering energy. Waves of life breath appeared in his induction. At the same time, Yang Hao also enabled eye enhancement to observe the surrounding sea clouds. Although everything was white, he still saw the strange-shaped empty fish. Yang Hao was a little surprised, but still didn't stop. The Wukong technique continued to be used, making him move forward at extremely high speeds like a human torpedo. Feeling that he was swimming much faster than before, Yang Hao smiled again. Speaking of which, the Wukong technique he developed seems to be more advantageous than the Wukong technique in Dragon Ball. Not only can his speed increase with his strength, but he can also use it in the sea, not just a simple flying skill. Under the turbulent air current, the sea clouds were stirred into an astonishing whirlpool, and almost all the surrounding fish were frightened away. Only one empty fish, like a balloon, took the initiative to attack. Yang Hao knew that this kind of empty fish would explode after being attacked, so he ignored it, just walked around and left. Soon, above the white sea, a figure emerged and floated in midair. Looking at the gate of heaven not far away, Yang Hao's lips curled up slightly. Inside the gate of heaven, Amazon was dozing off. Suddenly, there was a sound of breaking through the sky from the direction of Baihai. She opened her old eyes in surprise, and a vague figure seemed to appear in her sight. Who are you? This is the gate of heaven. Amazon is about to introduce it and then charge. As a result, the figure flew straight past the gate of heaven with a swipe. Amazon was shocked and quickly picked up the camera to take a picture of Yang Hao. As a result, there was a click, and there was only an afterimage in the screen. Not to mention Yang Hao's appearance, she didn't even know whether Yang Hao was a boy or a girl. For a moment, Amazon froze in place. Glancing at the dull Amazon from the corner of his eye, Yang Hao chuckled. Enel is inspecting the shipbuilding workshop. In his induction, McKinley and others from the White Berets did indeed dispatch after receiving contact from Amazon. However, that breath was no longer on Angel Island, but in an instant, it came to Apato, the island of gods where he was. This aura is from Qinghai. Almost when Yang Hao passed through the gate of heaven and completely set foot on the Sky Island. Almost at the same time. It's moving. An earth-shattering sound spread throughout Apato and even the entire Sky Island. Entering the country illegally. Soon, this empty island will be his. Looking at the large ship that was mostly made of gold, Enel's eyes showed a rare look of fanaticism. But just when Enel was thinking about it, suddenly, he frowned. But now, he is obviously here to cause trouble, so there is no need to get entangled with such a supporting character. But at this moment, he was startled again. When he first started the simulation, he planned to keep a low profile and naturally cooperate and pay the money. Because he knew that the White Berets would take care of it. Is this illegal entry into the country? Enel frowned, and before he could say anything else, the breath suddenly changed surprisingly again. Your term of office is over. From now on, the god of Sky Island is me. Their actions will naturally have no consequences, because Yang Hao has already gone straight to Wonglong and flew straight towards the island of gods, Apato. Apato, inside the temple. Enel frowned. And it's moving at an astonishing speed. What a joke. Next, Yang Hao also knew that Amazon would report the news of its invasion to the White Berets. In the blink of an eye, I flew past the gate of heaven and approached Angel Island. Enel, he spread out his domineering energy with an extremely wide range, and suddenly caught the existence of a strange aura. This was a breath he had never felt before. Although there are no relevant photos or effects, the White Berets will still patrol the nearest Angel Island. This Qinghai native doesn't understand the rules too much, right? After continuous transformation, the Ark's proverbs has become more and more perfect. I believe that in the near future, he will be able to ride on it and go to the infinite land. Upon hearing this, Enel's face suddenly darkened, as if it were the darkness before the storm. Thinking of this, Enel didn't pay too much attention. Chapter 110 God's Sanction. Then I am the Ape God Spear. Angel Island. McKinley and others from the White Berets are conducting an island-wide search. The movement alarmed the previous Sky Island god Gon Foer. He came over to inquire and found that McKinley and others did not know who the target was. They just knew that someone had broken into Sky Island without permission and should be on Angel Island at the moment. Are you from Qinghai? Soon, Gon Foer also had a guess. No wonder. After all, although they are isolated from the rest of the world, some Qinghai people still come here occasionally. Otherwise, how do they know that Qinghai is below, and even specially set the exchange rate between Bailey below and the currency here? The search noise of McKinley and others is getting louder and louder, and Gon Foer is already preparing to persuade them to try not to disturb the islanders of Angel Island. But at this moment, an earth-shattering sound came. Enel, your term of office is over. From now on, the god of Sky Island is me. Hearing this, Gon Foer was stunned. McKinley and others were also stunned, and the islanders on Angel Island were also stunned. Whose voice is this that offends God? They subconsciously looked in the direction of the sound, and there was the island of gods, Apato. At the same time, in Union Village, the people of the Sandia clan were also shocked when they heard the voice coming from Apato. Who is this? Is he provoking Enel? It doesn't seem like we are Sandians. Who is that? Wepa, what should we do? Everyone in Sandia was extremely surprised. On this empty island, besides the Sandia warriors, who else dares to fight against Enel? Finally, they all looked at a strong man. It was Wepa, the captain of the guerrillas. He is currently leading the Zandian warriors against Enel. At this time, Weipa also had a look of shock on his face. But he reacted quickly. The sound seems to be coming from Apato, the island of gods. To be able to span such a long distance, this sound-making existence is definitely not simple. Weipa couldn't help but feel strong curiosity. Who is this person who provokes Enel so much? Of course, these are not important. What is important is that this may seem like an opportunity for them, the Sandians. Thinking of this, Weipa's heart moved. For 400 years, the Sandia clan has never given up on their goal of recapturing the island of gods. Whether it was the period of the previous god Gon 4 or the current period of god Enel. It's just obvious that Enel is much stronger than Gon 4. They are always at a disadvantage. So, will this person who suddenly appears and provokes Enel bring them a turn for the better? Thinking of this, Weipa suddenly made a decision. The gorillas are out. Let's go over and take a look. As soon as the voice fell, Weipa took the lead and rushed out. He decided to go and have a look. If that person can't deal with Enel, forget it. But if he has the power to fight, they will seize the opportunity and take Apato back. The other Sandia fighters of the gorillas naturally followed without saying a word. Whoosh whoosh. Using Sky Island's unique tools, their movement speed is not slow either. But the next moment, Weipa and the others suddenly paused with their expressions greatly changed. I saw a black cloud suddenly appearing over Apato in the distance. Immediately, the black clouds shone, and in the bright blue light, a thunder pillar that illuminated the sky suddenly fell. God's sanction. Weipa and others' pupils shrank. And the other side, Angel Island and others also saw the appearance of Lei Zhu, and their faces turned pale. They knew that the god Enel was angry and sent down divine punishment. At this time, Apato. The four god-tier officials looked at each other in confusion. Yang Hao's voice was heard even on Angel Island and Union Village. They were in Apato, so there was no way they could not hear it. It's just that they were shocked by it. Are there really people who are not afraid of death or gods? But soon, they showed cruel smiles again. They knew that the person who dared to offend Enel would be in trouble. Enel is an omniscient and omnipotent god. How could he remain indifferent to such provocative words? Divine punishment is coming. Sure enough, just as the priests thought. It seems to symbolize God's mood. Dark clouds soon filled the sky in Apato. Then a pillar of thunder that penetrated the sky and the earth broke through the dark clouds, wrapped in earth-shattering thunder, and crashed down. In anger, Enel directly locked Yang Hao's position and launched God's sanction. At this moment, the astonishing thunder pressure covered Yang Hao first, forcing all the hair on Yang Hao's body to stand up. An iron fist like a pitch-black water tank suddenly exploded. This is also a simulated experience. The fourth god-tier officer was also stunned. A frog in a well like Enel can be named after God, why can't he? Whether it is to appease anger or to maintain the dignity of God, Enel cannot remain unheard. Yang Hao naturally discovered the strange scene in the sky immediately. For the current Yang Hao, the four god-tier officials who were as feared as tigers on the Sky Island are naturally just fish. It can be sorted out in 2 or 3 seconds. If you directly provoke Enel, you can directly cause Enel to attack personally, instead of him sending a priest to send him away. Just like that, the huge iron fist like a dark water tank fiercely met the thunder pillar that soared down from the sky. The reason is just as he said. Looking up at the thunder pillar that contained the mighty power of heaven and roared down, a smile slowly formed on his ferocious ape face. Veins burst out on the terrifying muscles. But at this time, facing Enel's divine sanction, he suddenly had the idea of changing the name of the move. However, he laughed. The terrifying power caused goosebumps to appear on Yang Hao's faceplate. Haha, good time. At this moment, a shocking situation occurred. Therefore, when Yang Hao came to the real world this time, he did not intend to waste time, but directly taunted Enel. While the arms are strengthened, the iron block skills are stirring, and the armed color is domineering. Weipa and others were confused. So from now on, Yang Hao's most powerful close-quarters punch will be called the Ape God Spear. Seeing this situation, Gonfure and others were dumbfounded. A mere thunderbolt dares to call God's sanction, then I am, the Ape God Gun. He was not surprised by the appearance of God's sanction. Yang Hao's clenched right fist suddenly became larger. Even Enel opened his mouth exaggeratedly and no longer looked as majestic as before. After the words fell, Yang Hao did not dodge. Instead, his figure soared up and faced Lei Zhu. God's sanction was actually exploded. In the sky, the thunder pillar that seemed to be able to destroy everything suddenly solidified. So just as Yang Hao thought, Enel used God's sanction. This is Yang Hao's Iron Ape King Spear. Then it exploded with a bang, instantly exploding into tiny pieces of thunder, and all dissipated in midair in a flash of blue light. When he shouted just now, he even activated his lung enhancement, so that those words not only resounded through Apato, but even spread throughout the entire Sky Island. Chapter 111 Gathering on the Island of Gods. My name is the Ape God. Yang Hao's punch exploded with thunder, shocking everyone with his skills. The thunder column exploded and disappeared, and his fist gradually returned to its original shape. A trace of green smoke on the surface slowly disappeared. Then he took a look at the palace from a distance. That's it. At this moment, Enel's face in the temple was extremely gloomy. Even without seeing Yang Hao's expression, he could feel Yang Hao's ridicule. Forget about provoking God. Now he even brutally defeated God's sanction. This is blasphemy against God. There was a snap. As soon as he thought of this, Enel's whole body flashed with blue light, suddenly turned into a bolt of thunder and lightning, and disappeared from the place. Almost at the same time, a bolt of lightning flew out of the temple and headed towards the location of God's sanction just now. That's God. Where is he going? When the 4 God-tier officers caught a glimpse of that swift lightning, their hearts trembled. Then they looked at each other and understood. Enel left in such a hurry, where else could he go? He must have gone to personally deal with the person who broke God's sanctions. Realizing this, the 4 God-tier officers also rushed to the scene in tacit understanding. They also want to see who this daring person is. Could it be those rats in Sandia who like to hide? But the problem is, if Sandia's group had the strength to defeat God's sanction, they wouldn't be considered rats. So, who is it? At the same time, Wepa and others also became very curious. That one just now was definitely God's sanction. It's the thunder released by Enel. I've seen it once before. It's so scary. This is simply the power of God. Who is the person who might be able to defeat this power? The leader, Weber, did not participate in the discussion, but suddenly restarted his pace and rushed to Apato at a faster speed. If anything, he just had a glimmer of hope. So now, the hope is greatly increased. That unknown existence can defeat God's sanction, which means that he may really have the power to compete with God Enel. As a result, he was even more determined to seize this opportunity. The other Sandia warriors naturally reacted and rushed after him. Also coming towards Apato was Gonfor. As the former god, why doesn't Gonfor want to deal with Enel and regain his throne? Unfortunately, his strength is too weak. No, I should say, it's that guy Enel, he's so perverted. In comparison, the opponent who may be able to control thunder and lightning is more like a god. It's just that the other party's cruel rule concept is seriously inconsistent with Gonfor, so he risked his life to regain the throne and restore the peace to Kongdao once again. Now that he suddenly saw this scene, Gonfor couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. Who is this person? Is he from Qinghai that McKinley and others are looking for? Of course, these are not important. What is important is that the person who is fighting against Enel does not seem to be at a disadvantage. So, could this also be an opportunity for me to regain my throne? Thinking of this, Gonfor immediately drove Pierre, the ugly Pegasus, and flew towards Apato. Ganfu, you. When McKinley saw Gonfor's actions, his face changed wildly, and he quickly led people to chase him. Gonfor clearly intended to trespass on Apato. He can't let the other party do this. However, the reason why he wanted to stop it was not because he was defending Enel. It's because he still has respect and loyalty to Gonfor, the former god of fear of heights. He didn't want to see such a dedicated god die tragically there and turn into a piece of coke. Just like that, several people and horses rushed towards Apato. But the fastest one is of course Enel, who turns into lightning and flies. His thunderous fruit is indeed extraordinary. Needless to say, the attack power is also top-notch, and it is much better than Kizaru's shining fruit. Even on long-distance flights, the thunder fruit's ability may be even better. Ever since, not long after, another thunderbolt came in front of Yang Hao. It's just that the momentum of this thunder was much smaller, and the moment it landed, it condensed into a human form, revealing the appearance of a proud man. It's Enel. With the arrival of Enel, the atmosphere at the scene seemed to become much more depressing. As if to symbolize the master's emotions, the surface of Enel's body was also flowing with electric light, looking extremely magical. Huh, ape, who are you? The moment he saw Yang Hao, a look of surprise flashed across Enel's cold face. What appeared in his sight was a 3-meter-tall, huge golden ape. His whole body exuded a fierce aura. But those eyes full of wisdom were full of teasing. A vein appeared on Enel's forehead. Who are you? A mere monkey from Qinghai, how dare you offend this god? It's as if the gods were angered and specifically sent down heavenly punishment. It's all fancy. If you want to fight, just start. The faces of the people who were coming from all directions changed wildly when they saw Apato's astonishing vision. Ape god. In fact, the move Ming Yuan Shen Qian just changed was not something he casually changed, but was well founded. On this empty island, I am the real god. False gods like you will never understand how powerful the real gods are. But when I come here, there is a high chance that I will be called the ape god. The Aborigines of Sky Island did not know Yang Hao's name, so they gave him an appropriate nickname based on his ape appearance. However, what these people didn't know was that in their eyes, the invincible god who was above him was directly punched away at this moment. Where am I? As he said this, the electric light on Enel's body became intense. In those simulations, after he defeated Enel, he naturally replaced him and became the new god of Sky Island. Yeah, ha 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 ha. Boom boom boom. It's so scary, it seems like the whole Apato is shrouded in thunder and lightning. Yang Hao's ferocious face said calmly, monkey. The people below call me a fierce ape. Who I am. Therefore, If you want to ask who Yang Hao is, then he is the ape god here. After the words fell, Enel suddenly opened his hands. But Yang Hao couldn't stand Enel showing off with his abilities, so he flew over and punched him away. People were in midair, and Enel was stunned. A terrifying scene appeared. At the end of the sentence, Yang Hao grinned. Ape god. At a glance, there are countless thunder and lightning, almost thousands. Everyone, even the hostile ones, were shocked by Enel's ability. Enel murmured and suddenly laughed angrily. Since you are looking for death, then I will help you and let you see my true power. Immediately afterwards, thunder and lightning struck the earth with roaring sounds. It seems that as long as there is a disagreement, it will turn into violent thunder and surge out. Is this still a human being? Is this a real god? Enel summoned thunder and lightning again. A large number of black clouds appeared somewhere in Apato and quickly filled the sky. What am I doing? In the blink of an eye, Apato seemed to be enveloped in a doomsday scene. Chapter 112 Lightning Resistance. The Wonder of Resistance. People are in midair. Enel was stunned for 3 consecutive times. What just happened? He was actually beaten away by Yang Hao. How is that possible? Zitsa. Thunder and lightning surged, and Enel's figure suddenly stabilized and fell to the ground. But his face couldn't hide the look of shock. You know, at that moment just now, he also instinctively entered elementalization. But why was he still hit by Yang Hao? Seeing Enel's confused expression, Yang Hao couldn't help laughing. No wonder Pokemon of the Big Mom group would mock Caribou, a Logia swamp user. Those with Logia fruit abilities who have never seen the world think they are invincible. But in fact, in front of the armed and domineering strong man, he is just an arrogant and foolish young man. Easily, he can be knocked down with one punch. Certainly. With the strength of Enel's Thunder Fruit ability, ordinary armed and domineering strong men cannot actually compete with it. Ordinary armed color and domineering power cannot stop Enel's thunder and lightning. That is to say, Yang Hao, although he is only a primary level armed color, his body is extremely powerful, which invisibly increases the strength of his armed color, so that he can injure the opponent without any damage. As Enel was knocked away, Apato's thunderous scene also dissipated. Only the thick thunderclouds still lingered in the air, like a curtain covering the sky. After interrupting Enel's pretense, Yang Hao chuckled and said, Enel, don't think of me as your previous opponents. I advise you to use your strongest moves as soon as possible. Otherwise, my patience is limited. To be honest, if Yang Hao hadn't planned to take Enel as his younger brother, Yang Hao would have unleashed a powerful move in seconds. Yes, Yang Hao plans to conquer Enel. As for the reason, it is naturally because of the Thunder Fruit, the strongest fruit in Logia. If Yang Hao had mastered the technology to perfectly transplant Devil Fruit abilities and could successfully extract the Thunder Fruit with 100% success, he would not think about conquering Enel. Instead, he will directly kill the opponent and seize the Devil Fruit. But Yang Hao does not possess this technology. This also means that after he kills Enel, he may find the reborn Thunder Fruit on the Sky Island. But it's also possible, not. In that case, it would be such a loss. In fact, in addition to being able to harvest a huge amount of gold on the empty island, Yang Hao would certainly not ignore the Thunder Fruit, a priceless treasure. In terms of value, the Thunder Fruit may be even better than the Peach Dragon Fruit in his hand. And compared to the Peach Dragon Fruit with fake appearance, the Thunder Fruit is more legitimate. If it were to be put up for auction directly, there would be no need to publicize it. Just say it casually, and a large number of powerful people would flock to it. It's a pity that Yang Hao doesn't have the ability like Blackbeard. Therefore, I can only settle for the next best thing, subdue it, and use the Thunder Fruit for my own use. Certainly, it is not easy to conquer someone as arrogant as Enel. Fortunately, Yang Hao has found a way in the simulation. That is to defeat Enel. Beat until you are convinced. And if you want to do this, you naturally can't let the battle end too quickly. Instead, you need to crush Enel in every way, even if the opponent uses the ultimate move. Just after hearing Yang Hao's words, Enel still didn't use his ultimate move directly. He looked at Yang Hao coldly, and just waved the long golden stick in his hand, beating the taiko drum behind him one after another. 30 million volts Thunderbirds. 30 million volts Thunder Beast. 60 million volts Brontosaurus. Zila. The electric light on Enel's body suddenly became strong. Huge thunder burst out from the taiko drum, forming extremely ferocious shapes, and rushed towards Yang Hao with bared teeth and claws. Enel's arrogance did not allow him to be led by Yang Hao. But in view of Yang Hao's previous performance, he still released a large number of thunder attacks at once. The 3 thunder beasts flew with astonishing momentum, especially the last thunder dragon, which was huge in size and rolled over like a hill. Why bother? Yang Hao shook his head. He suddenly understood why Enel always acted so condescending and pretentious. There is no way, it is really the opponent's strength that is too weak. The two sides are simply not on the same level. How can we fight like this? But before, it was gone full and others to Enel. But now, it is Enel to Yang Hao. That's right, Enel's power is no longer on the same level for Yang Hao. Therefore, Yang Hao's reaction inevitably seemed a bit pretentious. But this is normal, all because of this time. Facing Enel's astonishing thunder attack, Yang Hao stood still, motionless, and he didn't even activate his arm domineering force. As for fur enhancement, naturally there is no such thing. Boom. Thunder surges. The thunder beasts exploded one after another, turning into a sea of thunder covering dozens of meters, drowning Yang Hao. The strong voltage made the air feel depressed. Enel couldn't help but feel happy when he saw this. But the next second, the joy on his face solidified. After a burst of crackling explosions, the thunder gradually subsided, and Yang Hao's ape figure was revealed again. However, at this time, he was not injured at all. Even if he was anxious, it was not much. Enel's thunderous offensive was actually blocked by Yang Hao with his physical strength. Seeing this scene, Enel couldn't help but open his mouth again. Who is this guy? Why is God's sanction useless? Why is there no elementalization? And now, even if the thunder hits him directly, it's useless. Who is this Qinghai man? Fierce ape, ape god. Enel was stunned. Yang Hao patted the slightly anxious body, but smiled. He was not surprised by this situation. When he first started the simulation, he faced Enel and needed to use armament hockey to withstand most of the thunderous attacks. Even sometimes, it is necessary to use the indestructible diamond. But later, as the number of simulations increased, Yang Hao was able to withstand most of Enel's thunder and lightning simply with his ape-like physique. This situation is naturally because Yang Hao has become stronger again. But the aspect of becoming stronger this time is a bit strange. It is not the conventional power in the past, but lightning resistance. That's right, it's lightning resistance. Perhaps in the simulation, he fought more with Enel and received more electric shocks, so that later on, his body experienced benign changes in lightning resistance. This situation was a complete surprise. Yang Hao was a little stunned at first, but he quickly realized it. This situation is not surprising, because it has also happened to Luffy. In the original work, Luffy was poisoned after he fought against Magellan, a person with poison fruit ability, in Impel City. Later, he was cured by the Demon King, and his body miraculously developed poison resistance. Later, I was immune to Caesar Current's gas poison directly on Ice and Fire Island. From this, it can be seen that Yang Hao's situation is obviously the same as Luffy's. It's just that what he gained was lightning resistance. This unexpected harvest also brought Yang Hao a lot of inspiration to increase his strength. Obviously, in addition to lightning resistance, he can use the same method to gain other resistances. Such as poison resistance, fire resistance, and even ice resistance. If he can gather these resistances, it will be much easier for him to deal with the strong Logia in the future. Of course, it is not easy to do this. In the world of pirates, Yang Hao is probably the only one who can do it. All because even a child of luck like Luffy would have a narrow escape against the real Logia powerhouses. Not to mention gathering so many resistances. It is very likely that the average person will die a violent death in the first confrontation. Why would they want to get a blessing in disguise? But Yang Hao is different. With the simulation system, he can simulate it multiple times, obtain various types of resistance that are benign changes, and eliminate malignant changes such as poisoning and burns. And this is the reason why Yang Hao easily resisted Enel's Thunder Beast offensive at this time. Looking at Enel with a dull look on his face, Yang Hao smiled even more happily. If there was no thunder resistance, if he faced Enel, there was still a slight possibility of overturning. So, after gaining thunder resistance, he is completely invincible. No matter how much he wanders, he will never be defeated. It is no exaggeration to say that when Yang Hao faced this Sky Island god, he was absolutely crushed. And this is also Yang Hao's favorite situation. Enel, it seems you still didn't listen to what I said. In this case, I can only kill the god directly. Hearing Yang Hao's faint words, Enel's expression suddenly changed. Chapter 113 Thunder God and Ape God. After hearing Yang Hao's words, Enel's expression suddenly changed. A feeling of horror suddenly emerged from his heart. An extremely dangerous omen suddenly came from the heart network. Then, as if to confirm this, wisps of steam suddenly came out of Yang Hao on the opposite side. The panels exposed outside the hair began to turn red. The ferocious aura lingering on his body also suddenly increased greatly. This is. Enel's pupils shrank. At this moment, Yang Hao's figure suddenly disappeared. A brush sound. Yang Hao suddenly approached Enel. Amidst the lingering steam, a huge and dark hand suddenly grabbed at him. So fast. Enel was startled and subconsciously turned into thunder and lightning to escape. There was a sizzling sound. Enel is also very fast. If Yang Hao only had the original Wukong technique, he really wouldn't be able to catch up with Enel. But now, he has suddenly entered the enhanced form of the heart network. The strength and speed are greatly increased. In terms of real speed, it is even faster than Enel, who has the power of Thunder Fruit. Ever since, Enel had just escaped a few positions when his right foot suddenly tightened. He subconsciously turned around to look, and what caught his eye was an ape's face with a ferocious smile. Where do you want to go? Yang Hao's right hand was covered with armed domineering energy, and he suddenly grabbed Enel's right foot. Then, with a little force, he easily pulled Enel over. Bang! Enel, who turned into a human form of lightning, suddenly transformed back into a human form under the bombardment of Yang Hao's pitch-black fist. His face was distorted and his nose was bleeding. This is not over yet. Yang Hao had no intention of letting go of Enel. Punch after punch. The unorganized tortoise punches, due to the added aura of armed domineering, were simply not something Enel could resist. After a while, this aloof god became bruised and swollen. What are you doing? Let me go. Stop fighting. At the beginning, Enel could still curse angrily. But facing Yang Hao's iron fist, he quickly became frustrated. Finally, he yelled and exploded. The rich and violent thunder burst out crazily, and in a flash, it even forced Yang Hao away. Yang Hao steadied his figure and looked around. Enel's figure had changed drastically. The originally thin figure became huge, and the bruised and swollen face became solemn, with thunder lingering all over his body, exuding astonishing power. 20 million volts Thor. Enel finally used his ultimate move. It's the Thunder God form. In this form, his body will continue to surge with thunder from the inside out. Not only has his strength become stronger, but every move is packed with the mighty power of thunder. Just like this moment, Enel just waved his hand, and in an instant, more than a dozen thunder beasts flew out. Thunderbird with wings spread and fluttering. Thunder wolves running wildly and attacking. There are also fangs and claws, like a huge thunder dragon that destroys the world. Moreover, these thunder beasts are much stronger than those previously inspired by Enel in his normal state. The terrifying thunder pressure spread in all directions instantly. The crackling sound of lightning makes people's scalp numb. However, when Yang Hao saw this, his ferocious face still showed a smile. Did you finally use it? This situation naturally did not surprise Yang Hao. Should I say Enel is arrogant or mean? It means you have to be abused to a certain extent before you can use your ultimate move. This is true even if simulated multiple times. This time in reality, nothing has changed. In this case, Yang Hao can only satisfy him. However, Yang Hao was still a little surprised when he actually saw Enel's offensive in his Thunder God form. More than a dozen thunder beasts intertwined, almost like a sea of thunder crushing them. The strong voltage not only made Yang Hao's hair stand up, but also made him feel a slight pain. But soon, Yang Hao started laughing. Enel's performance was stronger, which actually brought him some fun. Facing the crushing thunder beasts, Yang Hao did not dodge, but began to mount a defense. Armed with domineering colors, iron blocks, and fur enhancements plus life return. The next year, Yang Hao simply turned into a huge black iron ball, and with the advancement of Wukong technique, he crashed into the group of thunder beasts. An amazing scene appeared. As Yang Hao crashed in, the charge of the thunder beasts was immediately stalled. Immediately, the thunder beasts were destroyed directly by the impact of the black iron ball. Bang bang bang. In midair, thunder collapsed. The thunder area of tens of meters was broken through by Yang Hao. He tried to wave the golden trident to resist, but it didn't help at all. He is 3 meters tall, covered with golden hair, has a ferocious face, and exudes a heart-stopping ferocious aura. At this moment, the 4th god tier official suddenly came up with a ridiculous idea. Seeing the huge thunder figure, their eyes showed awe and fear. After breaking through, the iron ball he turned into did not stop, but continued to hit Enel unabated. Puff puff puff. He seized the opportunity very well, just when Yang Hao put away his strength and was about to return to his human form, but had not yet recovered. At this moment, Enel's angry voice came from the ground. They stared blankly at the figure still suspended in midair. After entering the form of the god of thunder, his speed was also a bit faster, and he suddenly avoided Yang Hao's impact. The phantom flashed, and Enel was knocked back one after another. Enel was startled. The next moment, under the dull gazes of the 4 god tier officials, the aloof Enel was knocked to the ground like a shooting star. The 4th god tier official was stunned when he heard this. That's when. Are you kidding? But at this moment, there was a loud sound. However, what made the 4th god tier officer dumbfounded was entering the thunder god form, Enel, who was supposed to crush the enemy, was now being pressed down to fight. With a buzzing sound, the golden trident was blocked and then struck Enel with a bang. What? Enel's face changed under the lingering thunder, and subconsciously, he turned into thunder and fired away. A huge black stick actually pierced out of Yang Hao's body, directly blocking Enel's golden trident. Of course, this is also because Yang Hao's speed at this time is not very fast. Seeing that the golden trident was about to pierce Yang Hao's face, Enel's eyes flashed with excitement. This ape seems more like a god than Enel. This thunder god form is almost his ultimate trump card. Almost as soon as Enel realized this, the tail moved again. Seeing this, Enel hurriedly gnashed his teeth and dodged over, and stabbed hard with the golden trident in his hand that also changed. When the attack failed, the pitch-black iron ball formed by Yang Hao paused for a moment, then slowly cracked and was about to return to its human form. As Enel's subordinates, they can tell from the thunder god form that Enel is really serious about it. As Yang Hao completely cancelled the fur-enhanced form, he discovered that what was blocking the golden trident was not a giant stick weapon, but the thick tail behind Yang Hao. The 4th god tier officer finally arrived at the scene first. Hey, you four, stop him. Chapter 114 Lei Yingui Qigong. The fourth god tier official looked troubled. To be honest, they regretted coming. Originally, in their opinion, the existence that provoked Enel, even if it was not simple, was definitely not Enel's opponent. But now, what did they see? Enel was actually suppressed. How could they possibly stop such an existence? It's just that they didn't dare to violate Enel's words. Helpless, several people looked at each other and had no choice but to bite the bullet and kill Yang Hao. But just as the fourth god tier officer was killing Yang Hao, Enel did not continue to attack, but instead turned into a bolt of thunder and flew towards somewhere. This direction is exactly the shipbuilding workshop. He really ran over there. When Yang Hao saw this, he laughed secretly. Everything was as expected. There is no doubt that since even the thunder god form cannot withstand it, it is self-evident what Enel will do next. Obviously, the opponent is going to display the real ultimate skill. That move once destroyed Lei Ying of Burka Island. It's just that this move is not so easy to activate. If you want to achieve that stunning effect, you need to use the power of Ark's proverbs to create an astonishing number of thunderclouds. In fact, Enel has already done this just now, otherwise, he would not be able to use Wan Lei. But obviously, compared to Wan Lei, Lei Ying needs more thunderclouds. So Enel now plans to personally create thunderclouds. Knowing this, Yang Hao would naturally not stop Enel from leaving. When he talks about defeating Enel head-on, of course he also includes defeating Lei Ying head-on. Therefore, when the four god-tier officers came to kill them, Yang Hao cooperated very well and did not kill them instantly. He wanted to create a situation where he could not catch up for a while, so that Enel could create thunderclouds with peace of mind. The four god-tier officials obviously don't know the secret behind this. They only know that actually facing Yang Hao is not as difficult as they first imagined. What's going on? This ape doesn't seem to be that strong. Although he was suppressed by Yang Hao, he seemed to be able to withstand it. Realizing this, the four god-tier officials were extremely surprised. To be honest, they had already prepared to be severely injured or even killed. But the current situation made them overjoyed. Of course, the fourth god-tier officer is not stupid. They also saw that Yang Hao was letting off steam. Otherwise, the opponent's fist as big as clay would never have such power. But why would the other party do this? The four god-tier officials were greatly puzzled, but it did not affect them in taking advantage of the situation, and they fell into a bitter battle with Yang Hao. After noticing the small movements of several people, Yang Hao was a little dumbfounded. These guys are also talented people. However, Yang Hao did not expose the other party. Instead, he acted with the four god-tier officials while observing the size of the thunderclouds in the sky. Sure enough, the next moment, as Enel's figure disappeared in the direction of the shipbuilding workshop. Soon, the number of thunderclouds emerging over there suddenly increased. Looking from below, I saw thunderclouds expanding crazily until they occupied the entire Apato sky. What is that? Why do I have an ominous premonition? Me too, it seems like a disaster is coming. What the hell is this? As time went by, Weipa and others, as well as Ganfer, McKinley and others, all came to Apato. Just the moment they came here, they were all attracted by the terrifying thunderclouds above their heads. Many people's expressions changed slightly, and they felt depressed, as if something bad was about to happen. The most serious thing is Ganfer's mount, Pierre. As soon as it came here, it turned into a bird, jumping around, restless, and afraid. Ganfer looked at the thunderclouds above his head, his solemn expression quickly became horrified. Such a terrible scene brought back his long-standing memory. It is worth mentioning that the Sky Island area under the rule of the gods 6 years ago was not only Angel Island today. Besides this, there is another island, Burka. Only 6 years ago, there was a terrifying thunderstorm natural disaster, which directly led to the collapse of Burka. Soon after, Enel appeared, and then replaced him as the Sky Island god, until now. But now, such a thundercloud natural disaster has appeared again. Ganfu finally reacted. This is not a natural disaster. Rather, it was a man-made disaster. And the identity of the murderer who could create this natural disaster-like phenomenon and destroy Burka is about to be revealed. Enel, it's you. Why on earth do you become the god of Kongdao? Facing Lei Ying, Ganfu roared with a red face. Ganfer has always felt guilty about Burka's disappearance. In his opinion, that thundercloud natural disaster may have been a punishment imposed by the real god for his poor leadership as a false god. So when Enel seized the throne, he didn't resist much, but abdicated directly, and then silently guarded the islanders of Angel Island. But now, Ganfu discovered the truth. It turns out that Enel's brutal rule over the past 6 years is just the tip of the iceberg. Before he came to power, he actually massacred the entire Burka people. How could such a person become a Sky Island god? We must never let him become a Sky Island god. Thinking of this, Ganfer continued to rush into Apato with a gloomy face. As if feeling his master's emotions, Pierre looked up to the sky and roared, turning into a Pegasus again. Against the background of thunderclouds, its appearance looks less ugly, but more tragic. Lord Ganfer. McKinley, who was chasing after him, shouted anxiously again. He didn't know why Ganfu was so excited all of a sudden, but he could still understand the current situation. There are a lot of thunderclouds overhead, which are very dangerous. If they come down, I'm afraid the entire Apato quota will no longer exist. So if you continue to go deeper now, you will undoubtedly die. But Ganfu rushed in without hesitation. Also desperate are Wepa and others. Fighters, charge. We must not allow Apato to be damaged. No matter who it is, it won't work. If you want to destroy Apato, step over our corpses first. Wepa and others also have reasons to fight. They don't care about the empty island, but they must not let Apato be destroyed. When McKinley saw this, he couldn't help being stunned. After a while, I didn't know where the courage came from, and I rushed in. And just when everyone rushed into Apato, in the sky above the shipbuilding workshop, a golden ship rose into the sky. Enel, who transformed into the god of thunder, stood on the bow of the ship with a sinister expression on his face. The invasion of Ganfu and others was naturally sensed by his heart network, but he ignored it and just stared at Yonghao, who was pestered by the 4 god-tier officials. UB**********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************̈*̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈̈ If that's the case, then feel the true wrath of God and disappear together with this island. Enel was furious. On the surface of his body, a large amount of thunder was submerged into the golden ship. A large number of thunderclouds are continuously poured into the high sky. Soon, the thunderclouds in the sky expanded to a size comparable to that of Apato. Following Enel's thought, the thundercloud completely rioted, lingering with terrifying electric current, which seemed to fall slowly but actually quickly. Thunder welcome. Let's all die. This is the power of God. Yeah ha 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 ha. Enel laughed maniacally. On the ground, the expressions of the 4 god-tier officers changed drastically. Escape. Facing the overwhelming thunderclouds, the 4 of them left Yang Hao behind in a tacit agreement and fled frantically. Yang Hao did not pursue him, but watched the thunderclouds coming with bright eyes. In comparison, Ganfuer and others were much more excited. Enel, don't even think about succeeding. Ganfuer rode the Pegasus that Pierre transformed into a horse and soared into the sky. Weipa and others also gritted their teeth and jumped onto a nearby tree in an attempt to intercept. However, compared to Lei Ying, Ganfuer and others are obviously too small. Lord Ganfuer. Seeing this scene, McKinley shouted and fell to his knees with tears streaming down his face. At this moment, he seemed to have seen Ganfuer and others being meaninglessly destroyed in the vast thunder clouds. This is the method of gods. But is this kind of God who shows no mercy to humans really qualified to become a god? What kind of God is this? What kind of God is this guy who rides on a horse? If there really is a god, then come and stop this B****************. D. McKinley's eyes were splitting as he looked at Ganfuer and others who rushed towards Lei Yun without hesitation. At this moment, a shocking sound spread across the island. Turtle-style Qigong. Chapter 115 God's Pendant. Turtle-style Qigong. A shocking sound spread throughout the island. McKinley was stunned. Ganfuer, Weipa and others who were charging heaven-defying were also startled. Isn't this voice the same person who started provoking Enel? Almost at the same time. Hearing Yang Hao's voice, Enel, who was in Arc Proverbs, was also surprised. But he soon smiled. No matter what happened to Yang Hao, as he used Lei Ying, the opponent's fate was already doomed. However, the 4th god-tier officer at this time did not think so. The moment they heard the sound, they subconsciously turned back to look at Yang Hao. But he was shocked to find that Yang Hao did not escape, but stood there with his hands folded. The aura on his body suddenly expanded and rose like a flame. As the sound sounded, they felt a terrifying energy condensing in the ape's hands. The air was distorted. The next moment, a translucent white shock wave, like an angry dragon, burst out from between his hands. Almost as soon as Yang Hao finished speaking, a violent white pillar like chi shot up into the sky. All the air along the way seemed to be knocked out, forming a terrible vacuum. The rapids trembled, and amid the terrifying roar, they were one step ahead of Ganfuer and others, and were heavily submerged into the thunderclouds in the sky. What? Soon, Enel's face changed wildly. He could sense that the giant ball of thunder clouds that originally maintained a certain balance had been severely damaged. This kind of destruction instantly destroyed the stability of the giant thunder cloud ball, causing the violent force inside to lose control and burst into flames. Enel's eyes widened. If the thunderbolt hits the target, it's nothing. After all, he had no intention of keeping Lei Ying stable for long. If it comes into contact with the target, its stability will definitely be affected, thus unleashing its power. But now, the giant thunder cloud ball did not hit Apato, but was destroyed in midair. As a result, Apato was completely unscathed, and the terrifying thunder and lightning energy exploded and wreaked havoc in midair. The thunderclouds disappeared and the sky became clear again. But the sky at this time did not return to calm. All because of a white torrent, still pierced with lightning energy, rushing towards Enel. What? No. Enel shouted wildly and stepped forward to meet him. Although such an attack is extremely powerful, he can completely dodge it using elements. But behind him is the Arc of Proverbs. This is the ship that carries his dreams, and it must not be damaged. Boom. There was an earth-shattering roar. Turtle-style Qigong hits Enel right. The Thunder God form was instantly defeated, and then his whole body was knocked away. The sky lit up, and then the clarity completely returned. Apato is still a good person. Gonfuer and others blinked, unable to react for a while. McKinley cried and laughed, feeling that a real god had heard his call. The fourth god-tier officer froze on the spot, staring blankly at the 15-meter-long King Kong giant ape. As Enel's subordinates, they naturally understood that the thunderous greeting just now was caused by Enel. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to escape so neatly. But now, Lei Ying, who was powerful enough to destroy the island, was defeated by Shengsheng. This scene is even more shocking than the defeat of God's sanction just now. Immediately afterwards, as Yang Hao's eyes swept over, the four god-tier officers suddenly shivered. They subconsciously wanted to escape, but it was already too late. Yang Hao no longer held back his hands, and with a turn of his feet, a whirlwind of Saiyan blades was created, covering the four of them. Invincible Hot Wheels. The four god-tier officials had no reason to survive and were cut to pieces in an instant. Seeing this, Yang Hao nodded with satisfaction, encouraged the Wukong technique, and flew towards Enel. He left not long ago. A group of people arrived at the scene. It was Ganfuer and others who continued to delve deeper. When the thundercloud appeared, they dared to continue charging. There was no reason for them to retreat now that the thundercloud had disappeared. So, they came to their senses and continued to delve deeper. Among them, McKinley was even more enthusiastic. He looked forward to seeing the being who defeated the thunderclouds and caused miracles. But after arriving at the scene, no one existed here. But seeing the corpse of the fourth god-tier officer and the terrifying and anxious scene still made Ganfuer and others' expressions change wildly. The next moment, several people rushed towards the temple in tacit agreement. At this time, both Ganfer and Weipa and others were extremely curious about the existence that confronted Enel. Judging from the current performance, the other party obviously has power comparable to that of a god. Who is he? Yang Hao didn't know that he had been called a god unintentionally. All he knew was what the islanders on the later Sky Island called him. As for the current reaction of Gonfuer and others, he really didn't know. After all, when he attacked the empty island this time, whether it was simulation or reality, he almost took the route of going straight to Wanglong. Although he also knew about Ganfu and other supporting characters, he didn't care. Just like this moment, this situation surprised Yang Hao. In this form, he will be in a state of excitement. Yang Hao flew to the vicinity of the shipbuilding workshop. What made him nod secretly was that this time, even if he used turtle-style Qigong, even in the heart-strengthened form, he didn't feel much fatigue. It doesn't matter if he dies, but if the Thunder Fruit is lost, it will be troublesome. If he wants to use the Thunder Fruit ability, he must conquer Enel. Thinking of this, Yang Hao put Enel and the boat away, and then continued flying towards the temple with a smile on his face. But later on, you may fall into a longer period of weakness due to the use of turtle-style Qigong. After using turtle-style Qigong to defeat Lei Ying, Yang Hao went directly to reap the fruits of victory. Now that Enel was seriously injured and unconscious, it saved him a lot of effort. Even if he knew the reaction of Gonfuer and others, he probably wouldn't care at all. In his current state, it is more than enough to last until Enel is dealt with. Realizing this, Yang Hao was still a little scared. Fortunately, he put away the turtle Qigong in time, otherwise, he might have killed Enel directly. Of course, this is not urgent at the moment. It seemed that his turtle-style Qigong happened to hit Ark's proverbs, so he resisted regardless of his own safety. I'll probably have to beat him up several times later. Halfway through, Yang Hao did not forget to check his physical condition. As Yang Hao had expected before, after acquiring domineering energy, Wukong technique consumes less energy, and at the same time, Turtle School Qigong consumes less energy. Originally, his approach was to conquer the opponent. And this situation also made Yang Hao's heart move. After all, in the simulation, he had already tried using turtle-style Qigong to penetrate Lei Ying and disintegrate him. A large golden ship fell to the ground, and not far away, an unknown figure lay. But this victory does not mean that he can do it by disintegrating Lei Ying. There is no doubt that it is Arc Proverbs and Enel who was hit hard and fell into a coma. But it was the first time that I used turtle-style Qigong to knock Enel unconscious. But now, having experienced firsthand the importance Enel attached to the Ark's motto, Yang Hao felt that he might be able to conquer him more easily. The Golden City. Of course, the reason why he is not tired now is also because his heart is strengthened. The most important thing now is to harvest those most important trophies. I am coming. When he came here and glanced around, Yang Hao suddenly smiled. Less than a moment. Fortunately, such a situation did not occur. Then when he glanced at Ark's proverbs, Yang Hao reacted. But it doesn't matter. Chapter 116 Gold and New Gods. Soon, Yang Hao came to the temple and saw the golden capital from behind. What kind of scene is this? At a glance, everything is golden. This situation is even more shocking than entering a bank vault. It's like when you use a drone to overlook the city, all the buildings in your field of vision turn golden. The Golden City is well deserved. Of course, because of Enel, the Golden City at this time had already suffered a lot of damage. But from the remaining golden buildings, it is not difficult to get a glimpse of the original beauty. Simply shocking. The huge amount of gold made Yang Hao's eyes shine. Now all this gold is yours. Yang Hao soared into the sky and flew into the Golden City, feeling relaxed and happy. He flew around and began to put gold into the castle earrings. To be honest, with so much gold, Yang Hao was a little worried that the castle earrings wouldn't be able to hold it. But soon, Yang Hao found that he was a little worried. The space of castle earrings is much larger than imagined. A lot of gold is put in, and there is no feeling of crowding. Yang Hao was a little confused at first, but after thinking about it, he understood. Obviously, the space provided by the castle ability should be larger than Capone's ultimate attack on the castle boss. Otherwise, how could the other party hold thousands of people? Understanding this, Yang Hao was completely relieved. If there is too much gold to hold, it will be a bit troublesome. But it's okay. With so much gold, the trouble is nothing. At best, he can transport it below first and then come up. It takes a few trips to get it done. Worth it too. But now it can be done in one step, which is naturally the best. In less than a moment, the entire Golden City was empty. Destroyed walls and ruins were left in place. Yang Hao smiled slightly, and immediately flew into the sky again, returning to the temple in front. What surprised Yang Hao was that the temple was very lively at this time. Two groups of people gathered here and were facing each other faintly. It was none other than Ganfu, McKinley, Weipa and others. They continued to go deeper and surprisingly came to the temple. But before they could say anything, Yang Hao's figure had already fallen from the sky. Everyone was startled when they saw Yang Hao. You know, the servants in the temple and the people in the shipbuilding workshop were all expelled by them. Why is there anyone else? And this is not a person, but an ape. Could it be that he is? Thinking like this, Ganfu and others quickly reacted and their expressions froze. Yang Hao glanced at Ganfu and others, and took the initiative to speak. I want to inform you that Enel has been defeated by me. From now on, I will be the new god on Sky Island. Saying this, Yang Hao has cancelled the heart enhancement and restored his human form. Hearing Yang Hao's words and seeing Yang Hao's excessively young face, Ganfu and others were shocked. Although they had already speculated, they were still shocked to hear that Enel had been defeated. That's the god Enel. The opponent who controls thunder and lightning is really as powerful as a god. But now, he has lost. Or was he defeated by a young man who looked less than 20 years old? It's incredible. You are Ganfu, the Sky Island god before Enel. And you are Sandians. You came just in time, I just have something to ask you. Ganfu, Weipa and others were shocked when they heard Yang Hao's roll call. Unexpectedly, they didn't know Yang Hao, but Yang Hao seemed to know them very well. Could it be that this new god is also an omniscient and omnipotent being? McKinley, on the other hand, was a little disappointed when he didn't hear Yang Hao mention his name. God knows how much he respects Yang Hao, the god he met for the first time. Just now Lei Ying pressed down on the island, and he was already prepared to die. But what I never expected was that at the critical moment, a white torrent broke through the thundercloud. Such a scene is simply like a miracle. Looking back now, McKinley is very excited. And from Yang Hao's voice, he could also tell that the other party was indeed the god who stopped Enel. True god. I just don't know what this true god wants to do with Mr. Ganfu and the Sandians. At this time, Ganfu and others were naturally a little curious. Is this their first meeting with Yang Hao? What kind of things could the other party ask him for? Facing everyone's puzzled looks, Yang Hao explained with a smile. Although I am the new god of Sky Island, I won't stay here often. More often, I will still stay down there, which is what you call it. Qinghai. When I'm away, I need an agent to handle things for me. Ganfu, are you willing to become the acting god and help me do this? Hearing this, Ganfu was stunned. How could he not want to? He is very willing. Originally, he came here just to see who was provoking Enel. Later, after discovering that Enel was responsible for destroying Burka, he became determined to fight with Enel. If possible, of course he would continue to regain the throne and benefit the people of Sky Island. But he also understood that this hope was very slim. After all, Enel is really a strong pervert. But what he never expected was that in a twists and turns, Yang Hao would now entrust him to become the acting god. Doesn't this coincide with his original idea? Realizing this, Ganfu responded without thinking. I am willing, don't worry, I will manage the island better than before, for sure. Ganfu said firmly. Yang Hao nodded with a smile, and then looked at Weipa and others. As for you, I want you gorillas to join us and serve me. Of course, the condition I gave is that you Sandians can move to Apato. When he heard Yang Hao's words, Weipa frowned and subconsciously wanted to refuse. But after hearing what he said next, his expression immediately changed wildly. The faces of the rest of the Sandians, one by one, all changed drastically. But the reason why their faces changed was because of joy and surprise. Yang Hao's words were undoubtedly in line with their original intention. They risked their lives this time just to find a chance to recapture Apato. But now, as the new Sky Island god, Yonghao actually allows them to return to Apato to live. What's the difference between this and them taking back Apato? Weipa. After coming back to their senses, everyone in Sandia looked at Weipa with joy. Weipa also had a surprise in his heart. Of course he was willing to be able to achieve his wish without fighting. However, he did not agree immediately, but said, "We have to go back and discuss it with the village chief first." Can. Yonghao smiled. After he takes over Enel and the Golden City, he can actually leave directly. But leaving like this seems a bit wasteful. You know, this is the legendary Sky Island. If you control this place, you can't talk about making a lot of money every day, but if you want to make some money to spend, you can definitely do it. For example, sell things here to Qinghai, or sell things from Qinghai here. You should be able to make a lot of money by simply buying and selling. Among them, the representative ones should be the shellfish that are special products of Kongdao. Impact shell, fire shell, cloud shell, image shell. These magical shellfish will definitely be very popular if brought to Qinghai. Secondly, we can also vigorously develop tourism. I believe that with the magnificent scenery of Sky Island, many people will be willing to pay the entrance fee of 100,000 Baileys. In view of this, Yonghao will naturally not give up the empty island easily. Of course, he will definitely not be able to stay here permanently in the future, so he just asked Ganfuer, the former god, to help. However, Ganfu's sense of responsibility is sufficient, but his force value is not enough. Therefore, assistance from Weipa and others is needed. How to convince Ganfu, Weipa and others was naturally easy for Yonghao, who was familiar with the original work. In this way, Yonghao completely conquered Sky Island and became the new god. Chapter 117 Tens of Billions of Gold, Difficult Choices. Weipa and others immediately rushed back to Union Village to discuss with the village chief. Of course they are willing to Yonghao's proposal, but they do not represent all Sandians. Yonghao watched Weipa and others leave, then turned to Ganfu and said, "Ganfu, then I'll leave this place to you. I'll go around first." Ganfu naturally had no objection. He had some idea that Yonghao wanted to be a hands-off shopkeeper, which was exactly what he wanted. Looking back, Ganfu looked at McKinley and said with a smile, "McKinley, now that Enel has stepped down, are you still willing to serve the shrine?" Upon hearing this, McKinley was startled, then knelt down half-kneeling excitedly, shouting, "My subordinate is willing." Originally, he still had respect and loyalty to Ganfu, but now he also admired Yonghao, so of course he would not refuse. After all, now, he is equivalent to serving two people at the same time. Yonghao, who was not far away, heard Ganfu's words and immediately nodded secretly. His decision to let Ganfu be the agent was indeed the right one. He found out about the recruiter right after he got to work. Obviously, it is difficult for him to manage the empty island by himself. Only by recruiting McKinley and other old troops can he quickly take over management. Thinking of this, Yonghao ignored it. For the time being, he will not interfere in Sky Island affairs. After all, whether you want to do business or develop tourism, you need to solve the current communication and transportation problems between Kongdao and Qinghai. But Yonghao didn't want to do the errands himself, so he had to think of a better way. As for now, he is not interested in this temple, but he suddenly thought of it. Does that guy Enel have other treasury besides the Golden City? You know, the current Gate of Heaven is a temple structure, and entry fees are charged to any outsider. Even if very few people from Qinghai show up all year round, they can probably collect 1.8 million, right? Also, in addition to the Gate of Heaven, does the temple have other charging policies for islanders? Yonghao decided that with Enel's cruelty, there should still be some. So, maybe there is another vault of Enel hidden in the temple. Sure enough, Yonghao turned around and soon saw a room filled with piles of currency. The room is almost filled with currency unique to Sky Island. So much. But in calculation, it's estimated that 10 million belly is pretty good. Yonghao shook his head, but he didn't mind, since the castle earrings could fit in anyway. After collecting all the money here, he went directly back to one of the most luxurious rooms in the temple. This should be Enel's palace, and there are gold decorations everywhere. Yonghao will naturally not let them go and take them all. Next, he did not leave the empty island, but stayed in the temple and waited for a reply from the Sandians. Of course, he also took the opportunity to take a look at Ganfu's management during these few days. Even though it was handed over to Ganfu, it didn't mean that he was really relieved. In fact, in addition to continuing to make money by operating an empty island, it is also good to build it into a base camp of your own. If you cause too much trouble down there in the future, it would be a good idea to come up to avoid the limelight. Certainly. In addition, Yonghao also plans to deal with Enel directly here. Otherwise, placing it in the castle space will ultimately be a hidden danger. It would be funny if he accidentally destroyed the castle earrings. Thinking of this, Yonghao immediately started the simulation system. As a result, as soon as it was turned on, an unusual prompt appeared. Ding. It has been detected that the amount of host owned has reached 10 billion. Do you want to continue upgrading the system? Hearing this prompt, Yang Hao couldn't help but be startled. But he quickly came to his senses and his eyes lit up. Oh, you can upgrade again. Yang Hao perked up. Such reminders are not unfamiliar to him. He also received it when he unified the West Blue Gang and harvested 1 billion Baileys. That time it was an upgraded version, which upgraded the simulation system from a text version to a graphic version. And this time, it's obviously the version. But the amount also increased tenfold again, reaching an astonishing 10 billion. When he came to his senses, Yang Hao felt mixed joy and sorrow. Fortunately, according to the system, all his assets now add up to an astonishing tens of billions. It can be seen from this that the value of the gold he harvested is very likely to be more than 10 billion. Such a harvest naturally surprised Yang Hao. But what I didn't expect was that the system would pop up and ask for money, again. And it's even more exaggerated than last time. Last time it was only 1 billion, but this time it was 10 billion. Yang Hao couldn't help but fall into entanglement again. The last time I spent 1 billion to upgrade the simulation system, it was still worth the money. The simulated content with pictures and text saved him a lot of money compared to the text version. For example, the description in the text version is a bit vague, and one thing may need to be simulated 2 or 3 times before it becomes clear. The graphic version does not have this defect, it is almost done in one step, and many contents are clear and clear. Reducing the number of simulations is naturally a powerful means of saving money. Of course, the most important thing is that because the simulation content has become clearer, Yang Hao has really not encountered any accidents. Every simulation was quite accurate and might have saved his life virtually. So in general, spending 1 billion to upgrade the simulation system is still worth the money. But now, Yang Hao is still confused. The reason is simple. This is not 1 billion, but 10 billion. If it's 1 billion, I can grit my teeth and give it up, but if it's 10 billion, it's really not that easy to give up. There is no doubt that if 10 billion were used to simulate it, Yang Hao would definitely be able to upgrade to the 4 Emperors level with his current strength. Isn't 4 Emperors delicious? Yang Hao's mouth twitched. According to Yang Hao's previous thoughts, if you have enough power, are you still worried about running out of money? That's right. But the problem is that there are exceptions. 4 Emperors, in fact, are not necessarily rich. Like Whitebeard, he is very poor. She also has red hair and is probably not rich either. Now that I think about it, Kaido and Big Mom are probably the only ones with more money. Especially Ant. Raising a child is very expensive, and she still has money to fund Caesar Current's human enlargement experiment, so she should be very rich. But even an ant is unlikely to be able to spend tens of billions at once, right? Unless she sells herself. In other words, even if Yang Hao becomes 4 Emperors, it will not be easy to earn 10 billion. Yang Hao was a little confused. Also, the status of 4 Emperors does not seem to be very stable. Soon, if nothing unexpected happens, Whitebeard will die, right? Then there is Kaido, Big Mom. The replacement speed of 4 Emperors is simply not too scary. It can be seen from this that even the 4 Emperors cannot completely run amok in this notoriously deep water world of pirates. This point can actually be seen by looking at the power shown by 5 elders in the later period. Each of the 5 elders is estimated to have 4 Emperors level combat power. In this case, it is no wonder that Marine is also subject to the rule of the world government. Because apart from financial resources, Marine is not as good as the world government even in terms of combat power. Although Yang Hao does not necessarily have to face the world government, since this is the world ruled by the other party, if he wants to reach the top, there will definitely be a conflict in the end. There is no doubt about this. Under this premise, Yang Hao felt that his structure should be bigger. Using the current tens of billions of assets to rush into the 4 Emperors can be majestic for a while, but it will never last long. Thinking of this, Yang Hao made a decision. Upgrade the system. Chapter 118 System Upgrade, Holographic Simulation. System Upgrade. Yang Hao gritted his teeth and said, feeling relaxed all over. When he made this decision, he was indeed very entangled, but after making it, Yang Hao felt relieved. Still the same sentence. His biggest source of power currently is the simulation system. As long as the simulation system becomes stronger, he will gain more power. So you can't put the cart before the horse and be short-sighted. Boom. Yang Hao was shocked. Although he had made a decision, at this moment, when he saw the gold disappearing in batches inside the castle earrings, he was still heartbroken and bleeding. Although he can't be said to love money as much as his life, he is definitely a money grubber. Now that I suddenly don't have so much money, it's almost worse than killing him. The simulation system is really ruthless. In the blink of an eye, Yang Hao's golden capital almost disappeared. In the end, only the big golden clock was left, standing alone. No, in addition to that, there is also the Arc motto, which is still there. Yang Hao barely found a little comfort. At least, this time, there was still something gained. However, whether it was the golden bell or the golden ship of Arc Proverbs, Yang Hao did not intend to move it. The former is the famous Lamp of Shantara. There are many legends left in Gaia Town. In the future, Sky Island tourism will be open. Just place the golden clock anywhere and it will become an internet celebrity check-in point. Of course, the effect of the golden capital would be better, but it was impossible for Yang Hao to leave so much money, he could only leave the golden bell. At most, we can find someone to build a gilded city, and then put a golden clock in the center of the city, haha. Come to think of it, it's really worth doing. As for the motto of the arc, it goes without saying. This was the key to making Enel surrender. In addition, Yang Hao also means to take precautions. Vegapunk has predicted that the pirate world will sink into the sea in the future. At that time, everyone will have to show their special abilities. Facing such a world, Yang Hao can't completely guarantee that he can get away with it, even if he has excellent water properties. Therefore, if you own a spaceship like Arc Proverbs in advance, it will definitely be beneficial and harmless. Moreover, Arc Proverbs is not an ordinary spaceship, but a spaceship. In this way, if he can't survive in this world of pirates that has sunk into the sea, maybe he can go to the universe, to space. In the worldview of One Piece, life obviously exists in the vast universe, and there is even a profession like space pirates. In the original book, after Enel was defeated by Luffy, the side description given later indeed said that Enel went to the moon to dominate. In other words, this retreat is feasible. Certainly. It's not so much about leaving a way out for yourself. It would be better to say that this is a new path that Yang Hao has reserved for himself. Using the simulation system, if he doesn't waste time, he is destined to reach the top of the world. At that time, he would have to develop a new copy. Originally, Yang Hao planned to see if there was a chance to go to other dimensions. But this idea is a bit vague, and it is still unclear whether it can be realized. But if it's just the universe of this world, he can really do it. After all, Enel was able to hang out in space in the original book, so there's no reason why he can't do it. In this case, it is even more necessary to leave the arc motto. If it is impossible to go to space with human power, then we will naturally have to rely on the power of the arc proverbs. Thinking of this, Yang Hao became more and more eager to conquer Enel. After all, if you want to drive the arc proverbs, thunder and lightning are an indispensable source of power. Of course, Yang Hao's current priority is to test a new simulation system. He has lost most of his gold. Now let's see if the newly upgraded version can make up for his losses. Thinking of this, Yang Hao no longer hesitated and started the simulation system directly. The goal of this simulation is naturally to overwhelm Enel, but there is also a secondary goal, which is to continue to enhance lightning resistance. Although Yang Hao already possesses thunder resistance, it is not considered a great achievement. Enel's thunder and lightning will still work when it hits him, but it will only offset part of it. If you want to make your own lightning resistance strong enough to be immune to Enel's lightning, you still need to continue to superimpose the effect. And this goal obviously does not conflict with the goal of subduing Enel. So Yang Hao planned to do it at the same time. After thinking about it several times with his head and thinking that there was no problem, Yang Hao officially started. On the first day, you plan to enter the castle space, train Enel well, and subdue him as soon as possible. Close black lens bracket. But at this moment, an accident occurred. Close black lens bracket. Percent. Z% 1% at. In the simulation, an accident suddenly occurred. But what surprised Yang Hao even more was what actually happened. As soon as the simulation started, he noticed a difference. The simulated picture has undergone tremendous changes. Sure enough, it was just as he thought before. The simulation system is a text version. The simulation system is a graphic version. Now, what is shown is indeed a complete image. Subtitles, pictures, sounds. But what surprised Yang Hao was that when these complete images were played in his mind, they actually gave him an immersive feeling. It was as if Yang Hao was personally involved. It is worth mentioning. Although the simulation content obtained previously is very familiar and friendly, in Yang Hao's opinion, there is always a sense of disconnection. It's like reading a novel or a picture. You can immerse yourself in it, but when you react, you still feel a sense of separation. But now, this feeling has completely disappeared. For a moment, Yang Hao seemed to directly participate in the simulation, and what he gained was completely personal experience. Ever since, at this moment, Yang Hao seemed to have entered a simulated world in a trance. You planned to train Enel, but suddenly you sensed something abnormal inside the castle earring. Close black lens bracket. When you sense it carefully, you immediately find that the abnormality comes from the only life in the castle space, Enel. The domineering power of seeing and hearing spreads away. With the help of God's perspective, you discovered what Enel was doing. Close black lens bracket. He was seriously injured, and at this time, electric currents visible to the naked eye suddenly appeared on his body surface. The current was mainly concentrated in his heart. Close black lens bracket. After noticing this, you quickly understood that Enel was saving himself, using his own ability to shock the heart and revive it. Close black lens bracket. After a while, this move took effect. Enel suddenly opened his dead fish eyes and looked around in fear. Close black lens bracket. When he saw your human figure, Enel frowned. Then when you transformed into an ape, Enel's expression became frightened again. Close black lens bracket. Where is this? What have you done to this god? Enel asked, his voice filled with panic. Close black lens bracket. With the strength of his mental network, he obviously discovered at once that this was not an empty island. Close black lens bracket. Looking at the frightened Enel, you did not explain, but smiled. Close black lens bracket. Enel, I wonder if you, as a god, can withstand how many rounds of torture I have. At the same time, the real Yang Hao also smiled. After a period of time, he was finally able to accurately describe the essence of the simulation system. It allows people to enter the simulation in the form of holographic projection. It's like those holographic projection games often written about in future game novels. This is a holographic simulation. Chapter 119 Thor Inspiration. Super Saiyan. After your armed and domineering torture, Enel fell to the ground covered in blood. Close black lens bracket. Similar to your previous experience, Enel is indeed a tough guy. Close black lens bracket. It is not easy to simply conquer him. You must go through a long period of torture and torture before you can succeed. Close black lens bracket. And now, the time is so short, even though Enel is almost crippled, the opponent still maintains his arrogance. Close black lens bracket. However, this situation has long been expected by you. Close black lens bracket. So, you looked at Enel condescendingly, and suddenly chuckled and said something that made the other person's face change drastically. By the way, the gold ship you made is very unique, but I still like the gold on it better. Your ability seems to be very easy to deal with gold, can you help me? Enel's face suddenly changed. Whatever you want to do to my arc proverbs, give it back to me. You directly kicked Enel away and sneered. I said, you are a little confused about the situation. Now is not the time for you to order others from a high position. Your armed and domineering heavy blow woke Enel up all of a sudden. Yes, now that I have become a prisoner, how can I claim Yang Hao? From this moment on, the arc's motto no longer belongs to him. Close black lens bracket. Just thinking of his ideal of going to the infinite land, Enel suddenly became extremely angry again. Close black lens bracket. Electricity surged all over his body, and in an instant he entered the Thunder God form, which is the strongest among his abilities. You look at it with a half smile. You were able to defeat Enel in Thor form just now, and now it is no exception. Close black lens bracket. Only this time, seeing Enel's Thor transformation up close, your heart moved. Close black lens bracket. Speaking of which, Enel's development of the Thunder Fruit is actually quite good. Close black lens bracket. Powerful thunders, powerful thunder beasts, and terrifying thunder and lightning formed with the help of foreign objects. Yang Hao naturally recognized this kind of ability development. Especially the ultimate move that Enel can perform, the Thunder God form, made Yang Hao's eyes brighten. Looking at the many Logia fruit ability users who appeared in the original work, it seems that there are not many similar moves. The benefits of the Thunder God form have been mentioned before. It is to enhance the host's power so that every move is packed with terrifying and powerful thunder power. Yang Hao also knew the principle of this move. It's nothing more than releasing all the thunder and lightning you have at once, and then surrounding yourself with thunder to form a thunder god-like posture. Such a move is obviously out of the scope of Logia. This kind of deformation ability should appear more in the animal type fruit ability. So when Yang Hao saw it again, he couldn't help but be inspired. Can this thunder god stance type move be used with other abilities? For example, his ape fruit. Thinking of this, Yang Hao's eyes flickered. Can his ability be like the thunder fruit? By releasing all of it to form armor, he can transform into a new form with greatly increased power. It seems somewhat impossible, but give it a try. You were inspired by the form of the god of thunder and wanted to create a similar new form, but after some implementation, you realized that you were overthinking it. Close black lens bracket. Thunder god form is not that easy to imitate, but soon, with the help of brain strengthening, you have some inspiration. Close black lens bracket. Release all the abilities related to the ape fruit in the body. Is this situation somewhat similar to the 6-style secret and the 6-king spear? Close black lens bracket. As for forming armor, can Dewang Quan work? Dewang Quan is a magical Qigong technique that stores and controls Qi. With inspiration, you begin to silently try, using the secret of the 6-king spear to explode the ape fruit ability, and using the Dewang fist skills to control it to form armor. After a moment, you looked at the circle of golden air waves lingering around you and fell into dumbfounding. This circle of golden air waves was so familiar. Under the rendering of the golden air waves, your eyebrows and hair were even more. Everything turned into a brilliant golden color. Open black lens bracket. This is, close black lens bracket. This should be your, thunder god form, but since it is formed by using the power of the ape fruit, you call it the ape god form, but you would rather call this appearance, Super Saiyan. Closing square bracket. Yes, by accident, you actually developed a move that looks like a Super Saiyan. Close black lens bracket. And it seems that just like a Super Saiyan, in this form, your power has increased astonishingly. Close black lens bracket. It seems that he was intimidated by your momentum, and he seemed to be afraid that the Ark's motto would be destroyed. At this time, Enel actually surrendered to you. Close black lens bracket. You smile, feeling like a double blessing. Close black lens bracket. Coca-Cola is extremely sad. At this moment, a strong dizziness hits you. There is a bang in your mind, and you fall directly to the ground, and the surrounding air waves disappear instantly. Close black lens bracket. The sudden situation shocked Enel greatly, but he was not slow to react. He stirred up a ball of thunder and lightning and hit you. Close black lens bracket. ZZ, you were instantly scorched by electricity and suffered heavy injuries. The intense pain caused you to wake up. Subconsciously, you wanted to activate the ape fruit ability to fight back, but you were shocked to find that the abilities in your body could not be mobilized, as if being suppressed by Halu Stone, close black lens bracket. But you quickly realized that it was not that you were suppressed by Halushi, but that your body was too weak, so weak that you couldn't even use your abilities. The bright blue electric light will soon illuminate your face white, and then swallow you up. Close black lens bracket. In a weak state, your defense is greatly reduced, and in an instant, the terrifying thunder and lightning will wipe out your life breath. Close black lens bracket. You are dead. Looking at your body, Enel breathed a heavy sigh of relief, and then fell straight to the ground. Close black lens bracket. After recovering from serious injuries, Enel's condition was not good, so after killing you, he lost his combat effectiveness for a while. Close black lens bracket. After resting for a while, Enel finally got up from the ground and began to patrol the castle. Close black lens bracket. His mental network did not work because there were no other living beings in the castle. Close black lens bracket. But soon, Enel found the room in the castle where the food was stored. Close black lens bracket. Opened the room, Enel enjoyed it, and then began to recover silently. After he was ready to recover, he would break through and go out. Close black lens bracket. The simulation is over. This time, benign changes are obtained, one ape god form, malignant changes are eliminated, and one exhaustion is obtained. Close black lens bracket. Looking at this simulation, Yang Hao's expression became exciting. This simulation is too unexpected, isn't it? Chapter 120 version 3.0 changes, Super Saiyan God. Yang Hao's expression became very exciting. This simulation was so unexpected. As he expected, the simulation content this time was indeed a holographic simulation. But the real effect is not just as simple as being there. If he had to describe the difference between this version of the simulation system, Yang Hao thought it should be memory. That's right, it's memory. From the previous simulation, whether it was a text version or a graphic version, Yang Hao had a certain memory of the simulation content. But this kind of memory is also very limited, because the simulation content displayed in the text version and the graphic version is not very comprehensive. Especially for the text version, Yang Hao often has to guess the simulation content from a certain sentence. But after arriving at the video version, the memory becomes very comprehensive, even complete. Because he really experienced these contents immersively. As a result, a complete memory was formed, giving Yang Hao an extremely profound feeling. What benefits would such a situation bring? As mentioned before, you will save more money. Because the clearer the simulation content, Yang Hao will have more control over the simulation and spend less time in simulation to achieve his goals. So this version has stronger functions than the previous version, but it just saves money. More than, Yang Hao was also surprised to find that the simulation speed had become faster. The speeding up here refers to the time consumed by the simulation in reality. In fact, the simulation time is indeed very fast. But if it is the kind of simulation that lasts for many years, it cannot be done in a short time. Yang Hao had not calculated this accurately, but he was aware of it. Yang Hao had thought before that simulating the enemy before a battle, clearly simulating the enemy's abilities and moves, and finally wiping them out, was actually based on the fact that the simulation consumes a very short time. But no matter how short the consumption time is, there will still be consumption. If you encounter the kind of existence that kills you instantly, it's over. It can't be used in combat simulations either. But now, Yang Hao's worries in this regard have been greatly reduced. All because after the simulation system entered the version, the simulation speed became faster again. In this way, if the battle simulation only lasts for a day or two, it can be completed in seconds. In this case, although they are still no match for powerful enemies that can kill them instantly, most enemies can calmly go through simulations and practice actual combat first to find out the details. Realizing this, Yang Hao was pleasantly surprised. Spending tens of billions to upgrade the simulation system was equivalent to him temporarily giving up the opportunity to upgrade to 4 emperors. The sacrifice is not small. If it just becomes a video version, it's really not worth it. But now it seems that the version of the simulation system is not that stretchy. The simulation speed has become faster, which means that the trump card he simulated before the battle can come in handy even more. You can also save more time during the rest of the simulation. Save time and money. In addition, Yang Hao also made a new discovery. That was this simulation. After his death, he did not actively end the simulation. You know, the previous version was preset to end the simulation directly after death. But this time, he did not take the initiative to end it, and the simulation continued. If Yang Hao hadn't reacted and ended it on his own initiative, he felt that the simulation would have continued. Does this mean that if he has money, he can simulate the world after his death infinitely? This situation greatly surprised Yang Hao. Will there be any positive changes after my death? There is no high probability. In this case, the role of subsequent simulation will be greatly reduced. However, if you think about it carefully, it seems that being able to simulate the world after death is not completely useless. But the specific use needs to be explored carefully. To sum up, this is probably the difference between this version and the previous version. How should I put it? It still seems a bit worthless. But as time goes by, it will definitely be worth the money. Besides, if you don't upgrade this time, how can you upgrade to the next version? The version has changed so much, what will happen to the version? Yang Hao couldn't help but look forward to it. After thinking for a while, Yang Hao's attention finally returned to the content of this simulation. To be honest, the content of this simulation also surprised Yang Hao. He didn't expect that just a sudden burst of inspiration would lead to his death at the hands of Enel. This is an ending that has never happened before in a simulation match against Enel. The key, of course, is the change in conscience he obtained this time, the ape god form. Yang Hao silently entered the brain strengthening and began to assist in thinking. Recalling the principle of the ape god's form, he gradually understood. The ape god form is modeled after Enel's thunder god form. It is worth mentioning that ordinary people with animal fruit abilities really cannot imitate it. It's all because Enel's thunder god form releases the power within his body. But the release of the animal fruit ability user allows the body to change, rather than letting the power surround itself. Besides, it is also very difficult for an animal fruit ability user to release it explosively. Only Yang Hao, who has mastered Dwang Fist, Life Return and other skills, can imitate it all at once. Otherwise, if you were an ordinary person with animal fruit abilities, you might not be able to imitate it at all in your lifetime. But after imitating it, problems appeared. The thunder god form consumes a lot of energy, which also leads to the ape god form that imitates it, which also consumes a lot of energy. This shows that it is only a matter of time before he takes control of the ape god form. But later, as the strength continued to increase, it was almost able to be used regularly. During that period, Luffy was also unable to use Haki due to exhaustion. Now it seems that the sequelae of this ape god form are much more serious than the strengthening of the heart. In view of this, Yang Hao immediately decided to change the name of the ape god form. But he also knows that there will be many difficulties. Isn't this a Super Saiyan? This is exactly the phenomenon of excessive consumption of domineering energy. You know, the monster enhancements that were not controlled before are now controlled by Yang Hao. This can be seen from Wukongshu. And he believes that this situation may not be able to be improved. After the heart was strengthened, it just fell into a weak state and still retained a certain amount of combat power. Because the reason he was killed by Enel was entirely because he couldn't use his abilities. Yang Hao only performed the Wukong technique reluctantly at the beginning. The ape god form is indeed much more serious than heart strengthening. But this ape god form, after using it, is completely like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. So in the future, can he weaken the sequelae of the ape god form? Thinking of this, Yang Hao's eyes lit up. But compared to the strengthening of monsters that have not been controlled before, it seems to be less dangerous. Of course, what excites Yang Hao the most is the transformation into the ape god form. The whole body is surrounded by golden waves, and the hair and eyebrows are rendered into a golden color. In fact, Yang Hao had previously imagined recreating the Super Saiyan form because he had figured out the turtle-style Qigong and Wukong technique. As for Yang Hao's situation, although it is not domineering, it still has the same purpose. Realizing this, Yang Hao frowned. From this moment on, Yang Hao also has his own Super Saiyan form. It's called Super Saiyan God form. But soon, Yang Hao became a little excited again. You know, being strong only lasts for a while, being handsome lasts a lifetime. Even, it seems that it is not just as simple as consuming a lot of physical strength, it is very likely that it also includes ability. It's totally possible. It looks like the ability has been overused and cannot be used again in a short period of time. But what I never expected was that by chance, I actually did it on Kongdao. This kind of consumption once changed the situation of extremely low consumption of animal fruits. This situation reminded Yang Hao of when Luffy hit Doflamingo in 4th gear. So, entering the ape god form will cause him to overuse his abilities. Chapter 121 The Sacrifice of the Sandia Female Warrior Lackey. Just when Yang Hao was simulating. On the other side, Weipa and others have rushed back to Union Village. Soon, the entire Union Village was in a sensation. What? Enel was defeated. Real or false? Who defeated him? New gods. A peaceful day is like being suddenly dropped into an atomic bomb. The enemy that made them feel extremely troublesome fell like this. Certainly, what shocked Union Village and others the most was the conditions proposed to them by the new god. This condition is too good. It's just to let the guerrillas work and allow them all to move back to Apato. In fact, every member of the guerrillas had made a conscious decision to die before joining the team. Even if you die, you must take back the island of God, Apato. In other words, if you can take back Apato and let them die, it doesn't matter. But now, there is no need for them to die, just simple service to allow them to realize their wishes. Of course, this does not change the ownership of Apato, it just allows them to live on it. But for these people in Union Village, the meaning is the same. Nor did they ever think of possessing Apato. The reason why he has been fighting Ganfer and Enel is that he does not want to be kicked out of Apato. And this time, the new god of Sky Island undoubtedly brought them a huge surprise. Haha, look, I just said that no one would have any objections. Yes, we have been looking forward to this day for a long time. It doesn't matter if you play for him, as long as you can return to Apato. The team members laughed and talked. Wepa also nodded. The reason why he didn't agree outright was because he considered whether some people really wanted to take back Apato completely. If this is the case, it would be inappropriate for him to agree rashly. It is better to be cautious about such a major event that affects the future lives of all villagers. Wepa, you have done a great job and are the pride of our Sandia clan. Thank you for your hard work for such a long time. Go back and rest and prepare for the relocation. At this time, a white-haired old man wearing a beast hat stood up and excitedly acknowledged Wepa and others. This is the chief of Sandia. When he was young, he was actually a gorilla. Later, when he got old, he became the village chief and continued to lead the villagers. Originally, he thought that he would never see the Sandians return to the Island of Gods in this life, but now it has come true. Even if he was asked to die now, he would have no regrets. Of course, before that, he still had to take the last stand and make all arrangements before he really retired. Thinking of this, the chief looked at a beautiful figure standing in the middle of the gorillas and said, "Lackey, you stay, I have something to tell you." Hearing this, Lackey's fair face was startled, and then he nodded. Soon, Wepa and others left, and other villagers hurried home to prepare. What is it, Chief? Lackey moved the hair in front of his forehead and asked with some doubts. The chief looked at Lackey and sighed in his heart. Underneath her long hair is a fair face, and her figure is also very tall and pretty due to regular exercise. She is worthy of being the beauty of the Sandia clan. Such a woman, if there are no accidents, should be combined with Wepa to give birth to more powerful offspring. But at this time, the chief felt that Lackey might be able to marry better. Thinking of this, the chief asked, "You just said that although the new god made Ganfuor the acting god, he also invited you to serve and gave us conditions for moving Apato." Yeah, what's the problem? Lackey became even more confused. The chief's face suddenly became serious. Lackey, as one of the Sandia warriors, are you willing to sacrifice yourself in order to regain Apato? Certainly. Hearing this, Lackey responded without thinking. Well, now I hope you can sacrifice yourself to win the favor of that god for our Sandia. What? Lackey was stunned. What does this mean? The chief's face softened a little, and he explained. Although the new god also needs the service of our gorillas, judging from the other party's move to make Ganfuor the acting god, the other party should think more highly of Ganfuor. In the future, our gorillas will once you get there, you will probably have to follow Ganfuor's command. With this situation, if Ganfuor is dissatisfied with us, we may still be expelled from Apato at any time. Hearing this, Lackey's pretty face became serious. The chief's analysis is not unreasonable. So we have to strive to gain more favor from the new god. Even if we can't replace Ganfuor in the future, we won't let the new god drive us away with just a casual word from the other party. Lackey nodded repeatedly. The chief was right. But at this moment, the chief suddenly said, "Lackey, I heard that the new god is a very young and strong man. How do you feel about him?" "How does it feel?" Lackey murmured and suddenly blushed. She finally understood what the chief meant. "Chief, what did you say?" When it comes to this aspect, Lackey can't help but feel a little shy. She is not very old either. Even though he had been training because he joined the gorillas, he never considered falling in love. Now that the chief said it, Lackey couldn't help but feel ashamed. "Lackey, this is a major event for us Sandians. Of course, the new god who can defeat Enel is definitely a shockingly strong man and is completely worthy of you. What do you think?" The chief's tone suddenly became solemn. Hearing this, Lackey also became serious, but when she thought of Yang Hao's handsome face, she couldn't stop her heart from beating wildly. Seeing Lackey like this, the chief immediately understood and said happily, "Okay, then you can set off now. Tell the new god our decision, and then see if we can make it happen with him, and whether our Sandia family can do it. It's all up to you to establish a firm foothold in Apato." Lackey. Hearing this, Lackey bit his red lips and could only nod slightly. Other side. As the sky gets darker, Ganfer has also completely summoned all the white berets including McKinley, and also asked McKinley to start publicizing the change of body and soul on Angel Island, and summoned some young adults. He probably understood Yang Hao's intention of recruiting gorillas, but he just didn't value the force value of his side. There was no other way. Ganfu could only make up for it and see if it was possible to train a group of powerful subordinates as soon as possible. Of course, it doesn't matter even if it doesn't work. Anyway, the current shrine does need more people to do things. McKinley naturally didn't say anything, but before leaving, he couldn't help but ask Ganfer, Lord Ganfu, has the new god told him his name? Ganfu shook his head. I didn't say his name, he just asked us to call him a nickname. What nickname? Ape God. What a domineering nickname. McKinley sighed and led people out. But when he went out to the shrine, he met Lackey. Hey, you are from Sandia. My name is Lackey, and I'm here to see the new god. Lackey's face turned a little red, but she tried hard to maintain her usual heroic appearance as a female warrior. McKinley nodded and asked no more questions. He also heard Yang Hao's suggestions for the Sandians. So at this moment, Lackey should be here to answer on behalf of Sandia. What makes McKinley a little confused is why it is not the Captain Wapa, or the Chief, but now, it is the team member Lackey who is here. Moreover, this Lackey seemed to be more carefully dressed than before. At first glance, McKinley was a little surprised. But soon McKinley shook his head and stopped thinking about it. In this way, Lackey quickly entered the shrine and knocked on Yang Hao's door with a red face. What happened next is indescribable. Chapter 122, Speech on the Shelves, Speech on Life. It's about to be put on the shelves, let's talk to the readers. I don't know which book this is that I have put on the shelves at Kedian, but it seems that I rarely finish it, haha. When I first wanted to write a novel, it was an idea that suddenly came to me to follow the legend of a mortal cultivating immortality. Then for a year, after work, I wrote and uploaded randomly, and finally signed a potential contract at the starting point. Now there is no such thing as potential signing. The so-called potential signing actually does not bring much income, not even perfect attendance. But I was very young at that time, and I was stupid and didn't know. I thought that it would be cool for me to be able to publish novels online and become a writer even though I hadn't even finished high school. Especially at that time, the income of the third young master was exposed on the internet. The annual income of tens of millions made the ignorant boy at that time have a fever and dream of becoming an internet writer. Later, for the sake of my dream, I quit my job and went home to write novels. Of course, there is no pity. After all, at that time, I was doing low-level jobs and there was no future. But 2 years later, I realized my naivety. It is really difficult for an ordinary person who has never gone to college to become a novelist. Although I have read a lot of novels and have many pictures in my mind, after writing them out, they are pale and boring. So, after returning home, I had no income for 2 years, and almost gave up and went to find a job. But later, by chance, I met an author friend who worked at the stove and recommended me to go there. So I gave it a try, and it really made me some money and regained my confidence in writing. As a matter of fact, it is very friendly to new authors there, mainly because the release cycle is short. If it's slow, it's half a month, if it's fast, it's just a week. As for the starting point, if it is fast, it will take 2 months, if it is slow, it will even take 3 months. If a book fails, it will take almost half a year to open a new one, which is undoubtedly fatal for a person with little savings. So there, as a new author, I managed to get by. Then I got good at hand speed, made some money, and later found a girlfriend in my hometown. The day seems pretty good. After entering the mask industry, my income increased instead of decreasing, and there were some surprises. No one in my family or friends has had any problems during the epidemic, and everything seems to be going in a good direction. But the good times didn't last long. 2 years into the epidemic, my mother felt unwell and was diagnosed with a serious illness in Guangzhou. A bolt from the blue. In the advanced stage, there is no chance of surgery and can only be treated conservatively. At that time, I still had some savings, so I could cope with it, and I also had time to write novels, so I always accompanied me during daily checkups and taking medicines. It was nothing at first, but due to changes in my mood and the irregular coding time caused by accompanying me, my income from novels gradually dropped. After the masks ended, income plummeted. Then gradually, the stove became difficult to operate. There will be no income for the next 3 or 4 months. I went back to the starting point, wrote down the details, and made more than 10,000 yuan in half a year, which relieved the financial pressure. But bad news came one after another. My mother took targeted drugs, but the effect soon became less effective, and she needed to be checked again and the drug changed. I don't make much money, I spend money like water, and I soon start to get into debt. After 1 year of conservative treatment, his condition worsened and he became seriously ill. I went to the hospital again because my brothers and sisters had to work and couldn't leave, and because I wrote novels, I was the one accompanying them most of the time. Only those who have experienced this kind of heartache and exhaustion will know. I will never forget the time when my mother and I were sitting on the steps of a hospital in embarrassment at 4 o'clock in the morning that day. She was delirious and I was at a loss. During this period, I also wanted to write code in the hospital. After all, I really couldn't do it without money. But it was impossible to do it at all. I forced myself to code it, and what I wrote was also a pile of rubbish. No one paid for it. The same reason was also true for several subsequent books of Eunuch. At that time, I couldn't make money and I was not qualified to generate electricity for love. Money became increasingly scarce, so I simply bought out Kedian Menman and took 5,000 yuan. But when my mother was seriously ill, my girlfriend was having a hard time. The family business failed, and my mother was hospitalized one after another for cerebral hemorrhage and heart disease. As a boyfriend, you have to comfort the other person and provide certain financial support. Ever since, it went from being in debt to being heavily in debt. If that's all, forget it. But there was no relief here, and my dad was not feeling well and was hospitalized. It started with low back pain and weakness in the lower limbs. After a month of treatment, which was ineffective, I went to a large hospital in Guangzhou for a checkup. My mother temporarily found a nurse in the hospital, and then I took my father there. But when I was accompanying my mother 2 days ago, I accidentally twisted my foot and got cramps. I thought it would be fine if I rested for a few days, but there was no time to rest at all. I took my dad to Guangzhou on the high-speed train without stopping. At that time, my dad could hardly stand. When I got to Guangzhou South Railway Station, my sprain became more and more serious, and I was almost limping, so I looked for a wheelchair. While limping and pushing the wheelchair, I really wanted to cry. Inside the South Station, I took my dad on a bus, borrowed a wheelchair, and returned a wheelchair. I walked back and forth for more than an hour. After taking a taxi to the hotel, I was almost kneeling when I went up the stairs. Later, I found help from my cousin who was working in Guangzhou, and I reluctantly took my dad to get the checkup done. I iced my foot and rested for 2 days, and it finally got better. But the bad news came again. My dad is also seriously ill. Maybe I have a lovely son or daughter. I had a few manuscripts saved before, but I actually planned to put them on the shelves for 20 updates. Fang Yuan, written by Master Gu, once said, "Don't let your dreams shrink with age." We had no choice but to go back to our hometown after discussion and receive the same conservative treatment. Now as an escort, I can't do other jobs. The doctor said that without treatment, it would only last for 1 month, and the risk of surgery would be very high, and he might not be able to get off the operating bed. Well, my work, and life, seem to be seriously ill. Having said so much, it's not that I'm being miserable, I'm just looking for a place to talk. But at this time, at the end of last year, my mother became seriously ill and passed away. Suddenly I discovered that not only my parents were seriously ill. After the funeral, I stayed with my dad day and night. Later, I discovered that I was too useless and had not written any long stories to be published, so I did not meet the application conditions. It will be available after 12 o'clock tonight. If nothing happened to them, they would have been arranging my marriage in the past 2 or 3 years. But I will remember it and make up for it later. During this period, good news also came from my girlfriend. Her mother was rescued from a cerebral hemorrhage, but she will only be able to live a semi-autonomous life and often have to run to the hospital. As long as I have more than 1,000 yuan a month, I am very satisfied now, really. Now when I open this book, the actual purpose is just to get perfect attendance. It's late stage again, even more serious. After I came back, the economy was about to collapse. I thought that I could apply for the author's serious illness subsidy at the starting point, and my family seemed to be able to, so I asked the editor of Good Luck to give it a try. So you don't have to worry about eunuchs, the book will definitely be completed normally. This is also the persistence of a small person. But recently my dad was hospitalized again and had to be taken care of, so I can only have more as much as I can. Finally, let's get back to the shelves. After it was put on the shelves, it was updated 3 times a day. Disasters always come one after another. If you complain, will anyone come to save you? And Zoro was right. My dad's condition has also improved a bit, and he returned from the hospital with targeted drugs, but his condition is up and down, and he has to go to the hospital twice a month. But the situation is still very bad, just like a person immersed in seawater, sooner or later he will drown. However, the editor of Good Luck is very nice. If there are special circumstances, he can help you apply. I don't have Zoro's strength, so I can face difficulties and overcome obstacles, but I can only grit my teeth and persevere. The application seemed to have become meaningless, so I stopped taking care of it. I have experienced too much, and there is only emotion in my heart. But I really can't seem to do it.